It was already 12 o'clock at night, but this guy was still driving a taxi to earn a living. While he was driving, he suddenly saw a girl in white sitting in the back seat. The guy was confused and stopped the car and asked the girl when she got in the car. But after hearing that, the girl did not react and said that she would get out of the car right away. Then the guy looked in the rearview mirror and did not see the girl anymore. Suddenly, the girl went through the car door and calmly walked forward. But when she went a short distance, she stopped. Then she was sucked into the taxi by a force. This scene scared Young Min so much that she fainted. This girl's name was Ji-hun. She was trying to wake Young Min up, but she realized that she could not touch his body and she could not use her hands to open the car door. However, Ji-hun was able to go through the car door. She was confused and wondered if she was dead. The next morning, Young Min woke up and saw Ji-hun still sitting next to him, so he shouted loudly and quickly ran outside. Ji-hun chased for a short distance, but Young Min could not see her anymore. He stood outside and did not dare to return to the car. But then the urban management team came to Young Min's car. They intended to seize the car for illegal parking. Young Min saw that and ran out and explained that it was his car. Then he asked the urban management to see if anyone was in his taxi. The urban management opened the car door and there was no one inside. Then he reported the situation to Young Min. After hearing that, Young Min felt secure and got into his car. But when Young Min got into the car, he continued to see Ji-hyun. Although Young Min was very scared, he still tried to sit down and talk to Ji-hyun. She said she didn't remember who she was and had forgotten everything. Ji-hyun asked Young Min if he knew her, but he immediately denied it because this was the first time he had seen her. Ji-hyun said that when Young Min passed out last night, she saw blood stains on the car seat, so she suspected that Young Min had killed her. Young Min then showed the girl the camera data in the car. The video showed that the female guests from last night had smeared makeup blood on the car seat. Young Min asked Ji-hyun to get out of the car immediately, but she said that she couldn't leave the car. Then she tried to go out to show Young Min. When Ji-hyun had just walked a short distance forward, she was blocked by an invisible wall. Then, Ji-hyun was sucked back into the taxi. She shouted angrily because she couldn't leave the car. Now Young Min realized that it was time to pick up a regular customer, so he drove to pick up his customer. When the customer got in the car, Ji-hyun was also sitting in the front seat. But when the car had just moved a short distance, the customer suddenly felt a severe stomachache. The customer immediately asked Young Min to stop the car. After the customer got off the car, he suddenly felt better. The customer said that there seemed to be something a bit scary in Young Min's car, which made him unable to stay in the car any longer. Then he apologized to Young Min and turned around and left. It was late at night, but Young Min still couldn't get any more customers. If this continued, where would he get the money to pay his debt? Ji-hyun asked Young Min if he had anything to prove that he couldn't get customers because of her. Young Min immediately turned on the meter and asked her to pay the taxi fare from now on, but she immediately listed the penalties for drivers who increased the taxi fare of customers. Then Ji-hyun wondered why she knew these laws by heart. Young Min said he would find her family and he would ask them to pay for his taxi. Then Young Min went to the police station. He used his drawing skills to draw a picture of Ji-hyun. He asked the police to help him find her family. Maybe she died in an accident or had some kind of illness. Ji-hyun ran to the mirror to look, but she didn't see her image in it. The policeman told Young Min that no girl who died recently looked like the girl he drew. Young Min was disappointed and walked away with Ji-hyun. At this time, the major crime squad was investigating a case. The female victim named Kang Ji-hyun was abandoned by someone on the street. She was discovered first by her biological father. On this side, Young Min drove home and continued to blame Ji-hyun for her being the reason he couldn't make any money today. If Young Min can't earn money to pay off his debt, he and his grandmother will have to live on the street. So he just hopes Ji-hyun will disappear so he can earn money. Then, Young Min angrily goes into the house and Ji-hyun wants to follow him, but she can't leave this taxi. When Ji-hyun reads the license plate, she feels that it is very familiar. Young Min enters the house and locks the door because he is afraid that Ji-hyun will follow him. When his grandmother asks why Young Min didn't come home last night, he hugs her and acts spoiled like a child. The next morning, when Young Min is sleeping, he feels blood falling from the roof onto his face. Then he sees Ji-hyun floating in the air, but it turns out that it was just a nightmare. His grandmother wakes Young Min up. Then she tells her grandson to take her to meet a friend. Grandma got out of the taxi and was about to sit in the front seat when Young Min stopped her and asked her to sit in the back seat because the front seat was dirty. Grandma got into the car but couldn't see Ji-hyun in the car. Young Min wanted to get another taxi for Grandma but was refused, so he had to take her to meet her friend. On the way, he carefully observed if Grandma showed any unusual signs. Ji-hyun begged Young Min not to park the car outside like last night. He should bring the car inside. Then she shouted loudly again, which distracted Young Min, so he lost control and crashed into a pile of trash on the road. Luckily, Grandma was fine, but But Young Min was very angry with Ji-hyun, so he brought the car to see a shaman, hoping to sever Ji-hyun's attachment to the car. The shaman kept sprinkling salt on the car, but Ji-hyun only moved from one place to another. She couldn't leave the car. Then the shaman used a bell to exorcise the evil spirits from the car, but this only made Ji-hyun feel a little deaf. Then Young Min received a call from a client. This client was a doctor. Young Min drove away and told Ji-hyun that this client was very important, so he couldn't refuse because of her. Young Min drove to a bus stop to pick up Dr. Gyujin. Ji-hyun tried to observe the doctor's expression, and she was very happy because he didn't have any unusual expressions. When Gyujin was taken to the hospital, he started treating a patient who had just been brought to the emergency room. Young Min immediately remembered that his mother had been given first aid by Gyujin before. So Young Min went to the hospital and asked his friend So-ji, who was working as a nurse there, for a favor. He asked her to call Dr. Gyujin to help him. Young Min gave Gyujin some juice and said he was very grateful to Gyujin. Ji-hyun saw this scene from afar. She wondered what kind of relationship these two had, but because Ji-hyun had gone past the allowed distance, she was sucked back into the taxi. Young Min drove home that evening, and he thought about whether he should park his car there. Ji-hyun said she was very scared of the empty lot last night, so she begged him to park his car here tonight. Young Min asked her not to go into the neat house and hurt him grandmother. Then he went into the house alone. That evening, Young Min posted a story about a ghost appearing in his taxi on a social networking site. He asked if there was any way to get rid of this ghost, but no one believed Young Min's story. Then someone commented that Young Min's car could be a ghost door and that more ghosts would appear. This commenter's nickname was Young Master Hua. The next morning, Young Min continued to take Ji-hyun to find a customer. Young Min saw a man waving for a taxi, so he stopped the car and asked if the customer wanted to get in. This man named Chung was very surprised. Then he went through the car door to get in the car. It turned out that Young Min had met another ghost. Young Min was very angry when his taxi was a gathering place for ghosts. The two ghosts were now fighting over who would be the one. Young Min would help fulfill his wish first. Young Min had no choice but to take both ghosts to work with him. Then a man called for a taxi, so Young Min stopped to let him get in the car. But when the man opened the car door, he suddenly felt a severe pain in his neck, so he refused to get in the taxi. This made Young Min just helplessly watch him. Young Min returned home and saw the two ghosts outside still arguing. He took out his mother's photo and wondered why he couldn't meet his mother, but met those two useless ghosts. The next morning, Young Min drove to the taxi company. Ji-hyun and Chung followed him. They asked Young Min to help him fulfill his wish, but Young Min still ignored both ghosts. Suddenly, a young man named Kang Seok called Ji-hyun back. It turned out that he was also a ghost, so he asked her to help him get the gold in the car. Because Kang Seok's daughter was sick, he planned to sell the gold to cure her illness, but got into an accident. His wife didn't know, so she sold the car here. Ji-hyun immediately called out to Young Min and said there was gold in this car. Young Min searched the car and found a bag of gold inside. Then everyone went to the hospital where Kang Seok's daughter was being treated. The girl gave the bag of gold to her mother and said that an uncle gave it to her. He said that it was from her father to her mother. The mother was very surprised when she saw the amount of gold in the bag. Kang Seok burst into tears and bowed to thank everyone. Then he disappeared because he had fulfilled his wish. Kang Seok's daughter went to give Young Min a gold ring and said that her father said that this was Young Min's share. Then Young Min told Ji-hyun that he would now sell taxis to pay off his debt. When Chung heard that Young Min needed 20 million won, he immediately said that he would pay that amount to Young Min. Chung said that he worked in the VIP ward at Daehan Hospital, which was a place to treat noble patients. At this time, Ji-hyun thought of a good idea. She told Young Min to call this taxi a ghost taxi that transports ghosts. She would lure many ghosts into the car, and Young Min would help them fulfill their wishes. Then he will receive a lot of money as thanks from those ghosts. Young Min thought about the gold ring earlier, so he agreed to open a ghost taxi service. A moment after Young Min got out of the car, Chung admitted to Ji-hyun that he had lied. He died from a work accident. Chung had an unfulfilled wish, so he could not leave. Ji-hyun also said that she could not let Young Min sell this car because he was the only one who could help her right now. At this time, Young Min was in the bathroom. He began to imagine the prospect of earning a lot of money from the ghost taxi service. Then, he would pay off all the bank debt. From then on, he and his grandmother could live happily together. A moment after Young Min happily got out of the taxi, Chung confessed that he had lied. Chung had only been married for a month when he died. He had saved a gold bar to build a bathtub for his wife. Young Min angrily asked Chung if he knew that he and his grandmother were about to be kicked out onto the street. Chung is really a scammer. At this time, Chung's wife named Soo-jeon also came home, but Young Min decided not to help him. Young Min got into a taxi and drove home angrily. He called Ji-hyun a scammer. Then he angrily went upstairs. Ji-hyun also flew up and convinced him to help Chung. He really had a gold bar. If Young Min help Chung fix the house, he might earn 10 million won. While Youngmin was arguing loudly with Ji-hyun, his grandmother came in and asked who he was talking to. He lied that he had just answered the phone. His grandmother asked Youngmin to go check the toilet because it was leaking. Ji-hyun continued to stay outside and refused to leave. Youngmin went in to fix the toilet's water pipe. He looked at the bathtub again and remembered that Youngmin's mother had promised to buy him a bathtub in the past. Ji-hyun looked at Youngmin's childhood photos and exclaimed that he was cute when he was young, but now that he's grown up, he's become a pragmatic person. A while later, it was raining heavily outside. Youngmin walked out and saw Ji-hyun sleeping on the sofa. Because it was raining heavily, he just quietly walked back to his room. The next morning, while Youngmin was driving a taxi, Ji-hyun kept begging him not to sell the car. He still hadn't heard her last wish, but then she realized Youngmin was driving to Chung's house. Chung was very happy to see the two drivers arrive. Then Chung told Youngmin that Chung hid a gold bar in an old phone in the house. Ji-hyun suggested that Youngmin pretend to be Chung's acquaintance to break into the house. Then she told Chung to tell Youngmin about the good memories with his wife. Chung said that he and his wife met at the orphanage. He never thought that he and his wife could get married, but fate brought them together again. Chung started helping Soo-jeon adapt to work. When he saw her skin peeling from working too much, he bought medicine and confessed to Soo-jeon. Unexpectedly, she agreed. They were together for 10 years before getting married, but they were away from each other after only 1 month of marriage. Ji-hyun asked Youngmin to meet and tell Soo-jeon that he was the cousin of a very close friend of Chung's. Then Youngmin knocked on Soo-jeon's apartment door and introduced himself as Ji-hyun had taught him. When Soo-jeon opened the door, Youngmin pretended to cry and said that before Chung died, he asked him to rebuild the bathroom. Chung said that Soo-jeon really wanted a new bathroom, but he didn't expect him to leave so suddenly. Soo-jeon saw Youngmin crying, so he invited him into the house. The three of them planned to distract Soo-jeon so that Youngmin could go find the gold bar. Youngmin asked Soo-jeon to get the rental contract because he wanted to see if there was a clause in it that allowed for house renovations. Hearing that, Soo-jeon stood up and went to get the rental contract. Ji-hyun followed to monitor her, while Chung led Youngmin to find the phone. Youngmin followed Chung's instructions and found the phone, but when Youngmin opened it, the gold bar was nowhere to be found. At this time, Soo-jeon also found the rental contract, so Ji-hyun shouted loudly to alert the other two. Soo-jeon showed the contract to Youngmin and said that she could not afford the house renovations, but Youngmin immediately said that he had the money. Although Youngmin did not find the gold bar in the real phone, Chung remembered that he had transferred it to the air conditioner. Youngmin turned on the air conditioner to check and found that there was indeed a gold bar hidden there. Youngmin informed her that the contract allowed for the bathroom to be repaired. At this moment, Soo-jeon received a call from the insurance company informing her that she could now receive compensation from Chung. Youngmin then drove Soo-jeon to the hospital where Chung used to work. They came here to discuss receiving compensation. When Soo-jeon got out to sea, she felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Ji-hyun wanted to follow inside but was prevented by the suction of the taxi, so she had to stay in the taxi alone. At this moment, two policemen came to the house and met Youngmin's grandmother. They came here to investigate the death of Youngmin's mother. Policeman Chang Suk asked the grandmother that on the day Youngmin's mother was hit by a car, her taxi was parked at a shopping mall. So who brought that car here? Grandma said that when Youngmin's mother's funeral was over, she saw the taxi parked in the yard. She thought the police had returned the car. When Chang Suk asked if there was anything strange about the taxi, Grandma immediately called Youngmin to ask. On the day Youngmin's mother had an accident, he said something was missing from the taxi. Youngmin replied that the black box was missing from the car. At the same time, the insurance agent also came out to meet Soo-jeon, so Youngmin quickly said goodbye to Grandma. Grandma also told the police officer Chang Suk that the black box in the taxi was lost right after Youngmin's mother had an accident. Chang Suk's subordinate also confirmed that the taxi was not returned to the victim's family by the police. The insurance agent informed Soo-jeon that Chung's compensation for the work accident was 300 million won. At this moment, a woman and an old man ran out of nowhere. The woman named Do-sik claimed to be Chung's biological mother. She cried loudly for her son. Chung told Youngmin that he was abandoned as a child, so he didn't remember who his mother was. The insurance agent told Do-sik that Chung didn't seem to have a mother. The old man who was with Do-sik immediately showed her papers to prove that she was Chung's biological mother. Do-sik then told Soo-jeon that when she was in prison, she left Chung in the orphanage. This was all the savings she had saved up to give to Chung. Soo-jeon opened the insurance book and saw a picture of Chung as a child. When Soo-jeon and her husband saw this picture, they began to believe that this was Chung's biological mother. Ji-hyun was standing outside when she saw Soo-jeon walking out with an older woman. Do-sik invited Soo-jeon to visit her son's ashes. Youngmin then took Soo-jeon to visit her husband's Soo-jeon's ashes. When everyone arrived at Chong's resting place, his mother took out kiwi to offer. Soo-jeon immediately said that she had never seen her husband eat kiwi. Chong also told Young-min that she had been allergic to kiwi since she was a child. Do-sik then sat down to confide in Soo-jeon. She deliberately asked about the couple's marriage registration. Soo-jeon also honestly said that she and Chong had not registered their marriage yet because the two wanted to increase the preferential period for newlyweds so that they could buy a cheap apartment. Do-sik was happy to hear this. Then she left with a very satisfied look. Then Soo-jeon received a call from the insurance agent. He informed that the compensation money would be fully paid by Do-sik. It turned out that Do-sik had called the insurance agent to inform that Chong and Soo-jeon had not registered their marriage yet. Soo-jeon went to ask Do-sik. She said that she really needed money, so she did that. Later, when she received the money, she would give Soo-jeon some. Chong was very angry when he knew clearly that she only appeared for the money. Do-sik got in the car and told the old man that when Chong's mother was in prison, she told her about him all day long, so she knew Chong so well. Thanks to that, she received his insurance money today. In the evening, Young-min drove Soo-jeon home. Then he and Ji-hun drove away. When they got home, Young-min told Ji-hun that he didn't believe Do-sik was Chong's mother because he was also allergic to kiwi. So Young-min's mother was always worried about that. There was no way a biological mother could forget that her child was allergic to something. For people who lost a loved one, they wouldn't be happy when they received insurance money because they felt like they were making money off their family's lives. Do-sik said that this was a gift from Chong to her. If she were his biological mother, she wouldn't have said those words. Do-sik only spent 30 million won of his savings to get 300 million won. Isn't that too profitable? When Ji-hun said that he must have loved his mother very much to understand so clearly, Young-min said that his mother had died in an accident 3 months ago, but the police still haven't found the culprit who hit his mother with car. The next morning, Young-min called So-ji to ask for Chong's mother's address. Young-min and Ji-hyun went to the address. He rang the bell and knocked on the door, but there was no one inside. When he remembered the number on the urn for Chong's remains, Young-min suddenly unlocked the door. The two of them carefully went inside. They found a picture of Do-sik with another woman. Most likely this person was Chong's mother. Young-min showed the picture to Chong, but he didn't know if this was his biological mother or not. He remembered that when his mother brought him to the orphanage, Chong saw a scar on his mother's right hand. The scar was identical to the scar on the woman in the picture. Young-min went to tell Soo-jeon that Do-sik might not be Chong's mother because Chong remembered his mother had a scar on her right hand. But Do-sik kept wearing gloves, so Young-min couldn't confirm if she was Chong's mother or not. Even if his biological mother had returned, she didn't deserve Chong's insurance money because only his wife, who was always by his side, deserved that money. Soo-jeon cried when she heard that and said that if Chong were alive and saw this scene, he would be very sad. Young-min asked Soo-jeon to contact the insurance agent to arrange a meeting. Then everyone went to the hospital together. The insurance agent asked Do-sik to stamp her fingerprints to complete claim procedure. Do-sik took off her gloves. She did have a scar, but it was on her left hand. Young-min took her right hand and took off her gloves, but he still saw a scar on the back of her right hand. After Do-sik stamped her fingerprints, the insurance agent realized that her fingerprints were too fake. Fingerprints like that couldn't be confirmed. When Do-sik heard this, she knew that Soo-jeon wanted to use her fingerprints to compare with her ID. She immediately got angry and questioned Soo-jeon. Do-sik also asked Young-min if he was Soo-jeon's lover. Then she pulled out a handful of hair for Soo-jeon to do a DNA test. But how could Chong be confirmed if he was dead? Soo-jeon was so shocked that he fainted when he saw her attitude. Dr. Joo-jin checked and announced that Soo-jeon was 3 months pregnant. Soo-jeon asked if the baby's DNA could be used to confirm the identity. Ji-hun said that it was prohibited by Korean law, so Young-min told Soo-jeon that DNA testing would harm the baby. Soo-jeon heard that and said she wouldn't do it anymore. When Soo-jeon and Young-min were resting outside, Do-sik came and said that the baby in her belly wasn't Chong's. This statement hurt Soo-jeon, and she got up and left. Young-min stopped Do-sik from following her and said that he would definitely show everyone her fake nature. Soo-jeon said that she didn't need any compensation money anymore, as long as Do-sik didn't bother her anymore. Now Soo-jeon just wanted her baby to be safe. Ji-hun went home and told Young-min that they only had 2 more days, otherwise Do-sik would get the money and run away. But Young-min said that he needed to make a bathtub according to Chong's wishes first. The next day, Young-min and 2 friends came to Soo-jeon's house to install a bathtub. Ji-hun looked down at the table and saw that Chong had won a gift card at the hospital, so she called Young-min over to see. Do-sik and his lover were preparing to receive Chong's insurance money at the hospital. The insurance agent asked her to sign and then she would receive the money. Suddenly, Young-min appeared and brought out a set of documents. Do-sik picked up the documents and looked at them. It concluded that she and Chong had 98% different DNA. That is, she and Chong were not related by blood, and his insurance money would go to Soo-jeon. Do-sik asked Young Min where he got Chong's DNA to do the test. Young Min said that before Chong died, he had a DNA card from this hospital. The day before, when Do-sik had grown his hair back, Young Min used it to do a test to compare it with Chong's DNA. Soo-jeon loudly said that she would report Do-sik for fraud. Out of fear, she quickly led her lover away. Young Min immediately chased after the two, but they managed to escape. Soo-jeon then told Young Min that the police had already taken over the fraud case. That evening, Ji-hun told Young Min that Soo-jeon was the reason Chong was still in the mortal world, so perhaps Ji-hun also had a reason why she couldn't be released. There must be a reason why she and Young Min met. At this time, the two looked at each other for a long time. Then Ji-hun asked to high-five Young Min to celebrate the victory, but the two couldn't touch each other's bodies. Suddenly, Young Min saw Ji-hun wearing the hair tie that he had given his mother on his hand. At this time, Soo-jeon called out to Young Min because she saw him standing talking to himself. Then Young Min drove Soo-jeon home. Seo-jeon told him that she felt that Young Min was the one sent by Chong to help her. She then thanked Young Min and went into the house. Chong followed her into the house. When the two of them got home, Soo-jeon found that her door was open. Young Min checked her car and saw that Soo-jeon had forgotten the savings books that Do-sik had given her before, but they were actually left by Chong's biological mother. Suddenly, Chong ran down and told Young Min to go save his wife. Soo-jeon was being controlled by Do-sik and his lover. They wanted to get the savings books back. Young Min hurriedly ran up, but the door was locked from the inside. The two scammers used a knife to threaten Soo-jeon to return the savings books, but she said she had left them under the taxi. She even knelt down and begged them not to harm her child. Chong could only stand and watch helplessly. He tried to break the lock so Young Min could get in, but he couldn't affect the lock. Suddenly, a superhuman ability helped Chong break the lock. Young Min went in and hit the scammer. Then the two scammers were arrested by the police. Ji-hun asked Chong to say his final goodbye to his wife. At this time, Young Min also told Soo-jeon the truth. Young Min also said that Chong was sitting next to her now. Young Min began to recount what Chong was saying to his wife. Chong once said that if he had a child, he would name it Ba-eun, but Seo-jeon kept saying that the name was not good. Soo-jeon heard this and believed that her husband was here. Chong tearfully told his wife to name the child Ba-eun and that he would always watch over his wife and child. Soo-jeon cried and said that she really liked the name Ba-eun. Chong apologized for leaving Soo-jeon alone, but Soo-jeon doesn't feel lonely because she now has a child as a friend. Ji-hun is so emotional that she also sheds tears. At this time, Chong stands up and disappears because his last wish has been fulfilled. Young Min goes home and tries to search all over his mother's room. He wants to find the hair tie that he gave to his mother when he was little. When his grandmother walks in, she knows that Young Min is trying to find the black hair tie, so she takes out her daughter's phone to show Young Min. His mother's hair tie has a picture of a taxi hanging on it. Even the words engraved on the taxi match the hair tie that Ji-hun is wearing. Then the grandmother discovers a picture in which Young Min's mother took a photo with a very beautiful girl, and that person is Ji-hun. This makes Young Min feel very surprised. Young Min shows Ji-hun her mother's phone contacts to see if there is any familiar name, but Ji-hun can't remember anything. She was sure that she and Young Min's mother were related, so she couldn't leave his mother's taxi. The next day, while Young Min was driving to work, he received a call from police officer Chong Suk. Young Min immediately drove to the place where his mother had an accident. When he arrived, Young remembered the scene of his mother's accident, which made him extremely heartbroken. Then he and the two police officers went into a cafe to talk, but because this place was too far from Young Min's taxi, he asked the two police officers to go out with him to talk. His main purpose was to let Ji-hun hear this conversation. At this time, Chong Suk kept asking Young Min why he was at the scene when his mother's accident happened. It only took 30 minutes to get to Daehan Hospital from the scene, but why did he only show up at the hospital an hour later? Why didn't Young Min take his mother's taxi instead of taking another taxi? Young Min immediately remembered that he had an appointment to eat barbecue with his mother that day, but when he got there, he saw that his mother had been in an accident. At that time, Young Min wasn't allowed to get in the ambulance to go with him because he was also studying at police academy, so he understood that he needed to protect the scene. Therefore, Young Min didn't take his mother's taxi, but took another taxi to the hospital. Young Min got stuck in traffic after a while, so he got out of the car and ran to the hospital. Young Min now felt very uncomfortable because the police were questioning him like a criminal. He immediately told the two policemen that today was Young Min's mother's birthday, and yet the two policemen suspected that he had killed his mother. If you two have so much free time, then go find clues to solve the case. After that, Young Min left angrily. In the car, Ji-hun kept scolding the two policemen to try to comfort him. Then Young Min received a call from his grandmother, who reminded him to bring flowers to his mother. Young Min went to the cemetery to offer flowers to his mother. Ji-hun saw his mother's photo and praised her for being very beautiful. Young Min said that his mother also loved to talk, so she worked as a taxi driver to be able to talk to customers. At this time, a paparazzi was secretly taking pictures of Young Min. On this side, the grandmother called to invite Soji to her house to play. She promised to cook seafood scallion pancakes to treat her. Soji also promised to come to her house to enjoy the pancakes. Then she also told her grandmother to remember to take her diabetes medicine on time. The grandmother really liked Soji and wanted her to be her grandchild's lover. At this time, in the hospital, there was a student who had a serious accident and was taken to the emergency room. Ju-jin performed first aid on the student. Ju-jin informed the student's mother that the boy's condition was not serious. Then Nurse Soji ran out and told Ju-jin to return to the emergency room immediately. When Ju-jin entered the emergency room, he immediately pushed Nurse Jung-soo, who was performing first aid on the victim. Ju-jin tried to perform CPR on the boy, but it was ineffective. Tube of medicine had been injected into the patient's body. Then, Ju-jin bowed his head and walked out. He informed the mother that the boy had died. That night, when Young Min was driving to work, a drunk customer named Hwang Sung called a taxi. When he got into the front seat, Ji-hun immediately moved to the back seat. Young Min drove to the place that Hwang Sung requested. Suddenly, Hwang Sung's eyes lit up. He used one hand to touch Young Min's thigh, but he immediately used his other arm to hold this arm back. Hwang Sung talks to the other personality in his body that he can't do anything inappropriate here because there are female customers behind him watching. Young Min hears and stops the car. He asks Hwang Sung if he really saw Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun is very happy that there is another living person who can see him. Hwang Sung says he has read this taxi and ghost story somewhere. At this time, Young Min realizes that Hwang Sung is the person with the nickname Hwang Dandy who commented on his post. Hwang Sung says that he will help Young Min get rid of this ghost. Then, Hwang Sung takes out a talisman and sticks it on the taxi, but he finds out that Ji-hyun is not from this taxi. Hwang Sung sticks the talisman on Young Min's forehead again, but Ji-hyun still doesn't disappear. Hwang Sung asks her to go back to her place. Then he intends to stick the talisman on Ji-hyun to drive her away. But Young Min immediately stopped Hwang Sung and said that if Hwang Sung did that, he would report him to the police for harassment. Then, Hwang Sung gave Young Min his business card and said that Ji-hyun had to disappear so that customers could get in Young Min's taxi. Only then would Young Min earn a lot of money. Then Hwang Sung left. Young Min tried to search. He wanted to know which item in the car was holding Ji-hyun back. He took the book and walked away, but didn't see her move. Young Min took the phone and walked away, causing Ji-hyun to be drawn in and fly to touch his lips. This made both of them extremely shy and a little moved. Young Min drove away and looked at Ji-hyun's rosy lips. Then both of them looked embarrassed. Only then did the two of them realize that the phone was what was attached to Ji-hyun, but the phone was locked so they couldn't see what was inside. Ji-hyun said it probably wasn't her phone because it was too old. Young Min was going to the convenience store to buy a drink. Suddenly, Ji-hyun disappeared because her phone ran out of battery. Young Min searched but couldn't find Ji-hyun in the car anymore, and the phone had turned off. Young Min borrowed a phone charger from a supermarket employee, but it was an old phone, so it was hard to find a charger that fit it. While Young Min was sitting and thinking, a customer got in the car, so he took the drunk customer home. Ji-hyun was standing on a dark cliff. This place was like hell. She kept calling Young Min to save her. At this time, Young Min had a lot of customers. As soon as one customer got off, another one got in the car, so the taxi was working at full capacity. Young Min immediately remembered what Hwang Sung said, that Ji-hyun had to disappear for the customer to get in the car. Young Min picked up his phone and put it in the car's cabinet. The next morning, Young Min seemed very pensive. His grandmother said that yesterday he had talked in his sleep. He had shouted loudly to chase someone away. Young Min asked to borrow his grandmother's phone charger, but the charger didn't fit the phone. Young Min went to the car and comforted himself that since Ji-hyun was gone, no one would bother him anymore. At this time, his grandmother came and asked what phone he was holding, but Young Min said that he was about to throw it away. Then he told his grandmother to get in the car and take her to the entertainment center for the elderly. His grandmother conveniently took the phone and got out of the car. Young Min saw his grandmother going to the trash can, so he ran after her, but couldn't catch up. His grandmother had already thrown the phone in the trash can. She said she would throw it away for him. Young Min seemed quite sad, but he continued driving to earn money. A moment later, a female streamer got into the car and asked Young Min to take her to a remote tourist area. When he arrived, she paid him 202,000 won. Young Min sadly watched the sea and kept thinking about Ji-hyun. When a couple asked him to take a photo, Young Min saw this girl as Ji-hyun. At this time, a girl working at the same taxi company as Young Min was taking her mother with Alzheimer's to work. Eun-soo asked her mother to wait while she went to the bathroom. The mother sat in the car and watched a little girl playing outside. When Eunsu turned around, she couldn't find her mother anymore. She immediately ran to Ju-sung and Jin-woo to help her find her mother. Eunsu cried and ran everywhere looking for her mother. Her two friends also searched everywhere, but they still couldn't find Eunsu's mother. At this time, Eunsu's mother was being taken to the police station because she kept following the lovely girl from earlier. The girl's mother suspected that she wanted to kidnap her daughter. Young-min saw Eunsu collapsing, so he helped her up. Eunsu said that everyone treated her mother like a ghost. Just because she didn't remember who she was, everyone discriminated against her and didn't care about her. Only Eunsu knew who her mother was. Then, Eunsu received a call from the police. They informed her that they had found her mother, so Eunsu immediately went to the police station to pick her up. Young-min drove home. In the car, he kept thinking about what Eunsu had just said. On this side, Ji-hyun saw the ghost of a woman holding a small child in her arms, then she disappeared right in front of Ji-hyun. The next morning, Young-min asked someone to unlock the trash can to get the phone back. Then he ran to all the phone stores to buy a charger, but there was no place that sold it. At this time, Ji-hyun was also lying on the ground, gasping for breath because she was so desperate. Young-min took a picture of the phone's plug and posted it online to buy it. He was able to buy the right charger. When the phone was plugged in, Ji-hyun returned and lay in Young-min's arms. She thanked him for saving her life, but Young-min asked her to pay him 50,000 won, which was the amount he paid for the phone charger. Ji-hyun didn't expect him to spend 50,000 won to buy a phone charger. While Young-min was driving to work, Ji-hyun kept recounting her terrifying journey in the dark. Then, a male customer got in the taxi, but he suddenly felt a severe stomachache and got out of the car. Ji-hyun asked about the buttons on the taxi. She pressed the fare button and found out that Young-min had earned 680,000 won yesterday. This time, the bank texted him again, asking him to pay the interest. In the evening, Ji-hyun asked why Young-min bought a phone charger. Why did he just throw the phone away? Young-min immediately said that only he knew her, so he couldn't bear to leave Ji-hyun. She was very happy after hearing that. Suddenly, the car passed a girl in black standing on the side of the road. When the car drove a little further, they saw that girl named Ga-min appear again. Young-min immediately stopped car and asked her if she wanted to go somewhere. Ga-min also got in the car and tried to scare Young-min, but he still acted calm. When the car arrived at Ga-min's destination, Young-min asked her to pay the taxi fare. Ga-min said that if he caught her, she would pay. She tried to run away but was held back by Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun and Young-min continued to demand her taxi fare. Ga-min said that the two of them had a rather novel way of doing business, so she would show them a place with a lot of ghosts to pay instead of taxi fare. Since Ga-min was a bit busy right now, she would introduce another ghost to take them there. As soon as Ga-min disappeared, a person named Mi-rae appeared. She led the two of them to a bus station. Mi-rae said that ghosts would not appear at night, so she advised the two of them to come back during the day, when ghosts would come here in large numbers. The next morning, Ji-hyun woke Young-min up to go to the bus station, and they started the ghost taxi's pickup service. When the two of them arrived, they saw a lot of ghosts appearing there. Ji-hyun asked the ghosts to line up. Then, she introduced the ghost taxi's wish fulfillment service. But after Ji-hyun interviewed many ghosts, their wishes were far beyond Young-min's ability. Ji-hyun told Young-min that she must help him earn more than 680,000 won. At this time, a guy wearing glasses came to talk to Ji-hyun. He introduced himself as Shin-woo. He used to go to the same high school as Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun was very happy when she heard that because finally someone knew her real name. Then Shin-woo took Ji-hyun and Young-min to his old coffee shop. He asked Young-min to take out pictures of Ji-hyun. Shin-woo pointed to a girl and said that this was Ji-hyun's best friend. She had seen this girl in the dark hell. Ji-hyun now knew that she was 30 years old. Then Shin-woo asked Young-min to clean the tables and chairs for him. When Young-min looked surprised, Shin-woo promised to pay him a large sum of money. Shin-woo read the password for Young-min to open the safe to get the money. He said his wish was to go to the movies, have dinner at a 5-star restaurant. He wanted to go to a party and wear a couple rings with person he liked. The person he liked was Ji-hyun, but Shin-woo told Young-min not to reveal this to her. Young-min then started cleaning, while Shin-woo and Ji-hyun sat and chatted happily together. Young-min saw the photo and seemed quite upset. Then when he drove away, Ji-hyun asked Young-min how old she was. When Young-min said she was only 26 years old, Ji-hyun immediately asked him to call her his older sister, but Young-min still insisted on keeping the same form of address. Then the two went to the high school Ji-hyun used to attend and they saw a photo of her winning a fencing tournament. The next day, Young-min secretly went to see Hwang-sung. He asked Hwang-sung about how to change clothes for ghosts. Hwang-sung asked Young-min to hand over evidence of the molestation in the taxi. Only then would he answer. Young-min gave him the USB containing the evidence. Hwang-sung told Ji-hyun to just walk over the clothes to change clothes. Young-min then bought a demon mirror from Hwang-sung, thanks to which Ji-hyun could see herself clearly. Ji-hyun looked in the mirror her and was very grateful because her wish had come true. Young Min said his wish was to go to Namsan with his girlfriend. Then the two of them would make a love keychain together. Ji-hyun laughed when she heard that because that wish was too cheesy. Young Min took out a set of clothes from his grandmother. He asked Ji-hyun to walk over the clothes to see if she could change clothes. When she walked over, she was indeed able to wear a new set of clothes. But when Ji-hyun wanted to wear the old dress again, Young Min said he didn't have that dress here. He then took Ji-hyun to a clothing store. He told her to just walk over to the clothes to wear new clothes. But Ji-hyun felt guilty because if she wore it, no one would buy it anymore. Shinwoo then challenged Young Min to pay for the clothes. Young Min then took an expensive suit. Then he went to inform the salesperson that he would buy it. Shinwoo put on the elegant suit and he was praised by Ji-hyun. After a while, Young Min carried a lot of bags of clothes and left. Shinwoo said he wanted to date Ji-hyun at the cinema. Young Min immediately set up a projector to show the movie for them to watch. Shinwoo was angry because the movie theater was too simple. Young Min immediately replied that he had just spent 1 million won shopping. The remaining money was only enough to go to this place. Shinwoo heard and agreed to use this movie theater. Then Ji-hyun appeared. Young Min immediately played a romantic movie for her and Shinwoo to watch together. Meanwhile, Young Min put her phone on the table and angrily walked away. Ji-hyun also felt that Young Min seemed to be angry with her. After the movie ended, Shinwoo gently said that he believed in fate between him and Ji-hyun. A moment later, when Young Min was driving home, he asked Ji-hyun if she believed in fate with Shinwoo. She said that meeting lost friends again was truly fate. Young Min angrily said that a ghost appearing in a taxi was fate. He was so angry that he drove away quickly. The next day, Shinwoo wanted to go on a date at a 5-star restaurant with Ji-hyun. Young Min immediately set up a 5-star style banquet at his house and ordered food from the restaurant. When Shinwoo requested romantic music, Young Min turned on the music on his phone. Then he invited his grandmother to come out to eat because Shinwoo and Ji-hyun couldn't eat the food. Shinwoo asked Ji-hyun to smell the wine with him. Young Min was angry when he saw the two of them leaning their faces close to each other, so he asked his grandmother to sing a song. Shinwoo wanted to read Ji-hyun's poem. Their intimate actions made Young Min angry. The grandmother was quite surprised to see her grandson's expression. After that, Young Min drove Shinwoo home. Shinwoo said his last wish was to wear a couple ring with Ji-hyun, because if Ji-hyun wore a couple ring with him, both of them would be liberated. Young Min was very panicked when she heard that. A while later, he drove home but refused to go inside. Ji-hyun saw that and immediately flew out to ask what happened. Young Min asked her what she thought of Shinwoo. Ji-hyun immediately complimented Shinwoo for being very handsome, and importantly, he treated her much more gently than Young Min. Young Min angrily said that the two of them should go to the other side together. Whether Ji-hyun went or stayed had nothing to do with him anymore. Ji-hyun sadly asked why he was angry. The fact that she dated Shinwoo was also prepared by him. She was just trying to follow, but now he's telling her to go to heaven. Ji-hyun got angry and disappeared from the car. Young Min regretted it because he knew he had just said something he shouldn't have. The next morning, he went to buy a pair of couple rings to fulfill Shinwoo's last wish. Young Min thought about the prospect of Shinwoo giving the ring to Ji-hyun. The two of them happily looked at each other and went to heaven together. When Young Min drove home, he saw Ji-hyun had changed into a beautiful dress and was preparing to meet Shinwoo. Young Min went into the house to get Ji-hyun's phone. Then he drove her to the place where the ring was exchanged. But then, Young Min decided to turn the car around. He didn't take Ji-hyun to meet Shinwoo anymore. Even though Ji-hyun said their business would fail, Young Min still didn't care. He drove home and went straight into the house. When Ji-hyun stopped him, he went through her body to enter the room. Meanwhile, Shinwoo was still waiting in the confession room. After knowing that Young Min broke his promise, he was very angry. After a while, Young Min decided to drive a taxi alone and leave Ji-hyun at home. She sat with her grandmother waiting for Young Min all night, but they never saw Young Min return home. While her grandmother kept praising her grandson, Ji-hyun kept criticizing him for being moody. Then, her grandmother also decided to call and ask where Young Min was. It turned out that he was at a sauna. He was thinking about how to explain to Ji-hyun because he didn't bring her to the confession. Then, when Young Min was sleeping, someone came and touched his butt. That person was Hwang Song. Hwang Song explained that he was possessed by the general, so he did that. But Young Min decided to call the police. He was stopped by Hwang Song. Young Min asked Hwang Song if ghosts and demons who fall in love will be released. Hwang Song, at this time, also guessed Young Min's feelings. He advised Young Min not to love Ji-hyun because humans and ghosts will not have a good ending. At this time, two policemen came to see Ji-hyun's father. They wanted to investigate her death. The father said that Ji-hyun had a very close friend from high school. Her name was So-hee. She got pregnant last year, but died not long after. Ji-hyun thought So-hee was murdered, but her father said it was an accident. At that time, Ji-hyun's father tried to stop his daughter from continuing the investigation. investigation, but she thought Paul. So he was murdered by a doctor or nurse at Daejeon Hospital because the number of deaths in the emergency room there has doubled in recent years. So he was a healthy person, but when she entered the emergency room, she died. Jihyun's father tries to convince his daughter to believe the police's conclusion, but Jihyun says that he worked so hard to have a child that she can't stop the investigation. The next morning, Grandma keeps calling Youngmin, but he doesn't answer. Grandma thinks he slept with Soji last night and is very happy. Grandma calls Soji and finds out that she is with Youngmin. Jihyun goes into Youngmin's room and sees a photo of him and Soji from high school. Jihyun sees that Youngmin still hasn't plugged in his phone, so she blames him for not taking care of her and being busy with his love life. Youngmin is driving Soji to the hospital. She keeps scolding Youngmin for sleeping outside all night, leaving Grandma alone at home. Soji buys 3 cups of coffee and she will give one to Dr. Joo-jin, but Youngmin said Joo-jin wouldn't like Soji. At this time, Soji discovered that her phone was almost out of battery. This made Youngmin remember that he hadn't plugged in his phone at home, so he hurried home. Jihyun was sulking, so he asked him if he had fun on a date with Soji. They must be very happy. Youngmin said she was just his friend. Then he went to charge his phone. He asked Jihyun if she was jealous or not. When she heard that, she lost her temper and said that it was because Youngmin didn't charge her phone that she felt uncomfortable. Youngmin apologized and asked if she wanted to meet Shinwoo. Jihyun immediately asked him to take her to meet Shinwoo. When Youngmin drove to the meeting place, he thanked Jihyun for helping him earn money from the ghost taxi service. She felt like Youngmin was saying goodbye to her. He took out a set of clothes and shoes to give to Jihyun. She put on her clothes and looked very happy. Then she went inside to meet Shinwoo. Youngmin was also mentally prepared that she would not see Jihyun anymore. Shinwoo scolded Youngmin because he kept interrupting Shinwoo's confession plan. Youngmin explained that he was afraid that Jihyun would disappear. Shinwoo said that he would give Jihyun the ring later. He wanted Youngmin to stop interrupting him. Then Shinwoo started to confess to Jihyun. He really wanted to go to the movies and go to fancy restaurants with his girlfriend, but he waited until he passed the exam to do those things. Unexpectedly, Shinwoo died on that day, and now he met his first love, Jihyun, here. Shinwoo heard that if ghosts fall in love, they will be released, so he wanted Jihyun to wear the ring and go with him, because she would not be happy if she stayed here without remembering anything. After hearing the confession, Jihyun immediately thanked Shinwoo. He was the first person to let her know who she was after losing her memory. Jihyun was very happy to know Shinwoo's feelings, but she wanted to find her memories with Youngmin. Shinwoo immediately said that ghosts and humans cannot be together because ghosts who love humans will also be released. So, if Jihyun wants to stay in the mortal world to find memories, she absolutely cannot love Youngmin. Even though Jihyun did not agree to love Shinwoo, he was also very satisfied because he had expressed his feelings. At this time, Youngmin also decided to run up to keep Jihyun. Shinwoo also disappeared in front of Jihyun. Youngmin opened her eyes and saw that she was still there. When the two went out, Jihyun asked him if Youngmin was happy that she did not go, right? But he still tried to deceive his feelings. He also asked why she did not go with Shinwoo. Jihyun said she wouldn't go anywhere until she got her memories back. Youngmin then drove Jihyun, saying he would go find her memories. Youngmin drove Jihyun to meet Hwang Sung. Youngmin gave Hwang Sung a phone. When he was about to stick a talisman on the phone, Jihyun shouted loudly to stop him, causing the talisman to fall into a puddle of water. Hwang Sung explained that this was a talisman that was good for her brain, not an exorcism. A moment later, Hwang Sung stuck another talisman on Jihyun's forehead. At this time, she remembered the past. She had congratulated So-hee when she announced that she was pregnant, but So-hee died in the hospital. Jihyun also met a detective. The detective secretly took pictures of So-hee's funeral, so Jihyun and Youngmin immediately went to the detective office. When she arrived, she remembered that the detective said that someone secretly hired him to take pictures of So-hee's funeral. Youngmin promised Jihyun that he would find the detective. When they got to the taxi, Jihyun said that the detective called him a policeman. So did she ever work as a policeman? Youngmin promised that if Jihyun remembered anything, he would take her there. Suddenly, a boy named Hajun opened the door and got into the taxi. This boy could also see Jihyun. Hajun admitted that he could see ghosts. He could even say goodbye to his parents when they died. Hajun asked if this taxi could make wishes come true. His older sister was missing, but the police and the teacher both said that she ran away from home. Yesterday was Hajun's birthday. His older sister never forgot his birthday, but yesterday, Hajun's older sister didn't come home. The boy begged Youngmin to help him. Youngmin took the boy home. Hajun's grandmother gave him some money to pay for his nephew's taxi fare, but Youngmin gave the money to Hajun to buy food. Youngmin helped the boy wash rice and cook, while the boy led Jihyun to visit his sister Ha-eun's room. Hajun kept praising his sister for being a very good student. She was very obedient, so she couldn't have run away from home. At this moment, Young Min's grandmother saw the bank people coming to collect the debt, so she immediately called to inform Young Min. He immediately told Ji-hun to come home immediately. Ha-jun immediately asked if the boy didn't pay, so Young Min wouldn't help him fulfill his dream. Ji-hun said, Han definitely didn't run away. If she went missing, everyone needed to go find her immediately. When Young Min said to let police search, Ji-hun told him to go home alone and leave his phone here. After that, Young Min drove the taxi home alone. Ji-hun asked Ha-jun what gift his sister promised him for his birthday. The boy said his sister promised him a video game. Ji-hun went to the video game store to find out where Ha-un was. The store owner said that the girl came here the day before to buy a video game. Ji-hun asked Ha-jun to ask if Ha-un was with anyone. The store owner said that she was with a friend wearing a school uniform. Ha-jun said that his sister was definitely with Mi-ri because she often came to his house to play with Ha-un. The two girls worked part-time at the supermarket. After that, Ha-jun went to see the manager at the supermarket to ask about his sister. The manager said that Ha-un was never late for work, but today she didn't come to work. Ji-hyun told Ha-jun to ask about Mi-ri. The manager said that Mi-ri was fired because she pretended to go to work to steal alcohol and cigarettes. It seems that before Mi-ri quit her job, she said that her parents were away on vacation, so she invited Ha-un to come over to her house. Ha-jun listened to Ji-hyun's words, so he, frankly, asked the manager to call Mi-ri immediately. The manager called Mi-ri, but no one answered. Ji-hyun thought that Ha-yun just came to Mi-ri's house to stay overnight. Probably, Ha-yun would go to school tomorrow. Young Min's grandmother was panicking because the bank announced that they would auction the house if Young Min didn't pay the interest on time. He kept reassuring his grandmother. Young Min said that he was almost making enough money. After that, the grandmother showed Young Min a special pot of betel plant. It was very rare because it was restricted from import. The grandmother asked her grandson to sell it to pay off the debt. Many people wanted to buy it. Young Min said how much money he would get if he sold it. But when he searched on Google, he found that this betel tree was worth up to 5 million won. So Young Min immediately posted this rare betel tree for sale online. When he just clicked the post, many people asked to buy it. Young Min went back to his room and thought about whether he should call Ji-hyun or not. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun on this side asked Ha-jun why Young Min didn't call him. Ha-jun immediately told her to take the initiative to call him. Ji-hyun immediately had to argue and said why should she call first, but right after that, she also received a call from Young Min. Because ghosts can't talk on the phone, Ha-jun began to recount what Ji-hyun said to Young Min, but the boy added words to Ji-hyun's words, which made her words even colder. At this time at Daejeon Hospital, nurse spots. So Ji saw Nurse Jung-soo stealing 2 bottles of medicine and putting them in her pocket. So Ji immediately went to see Ju-jin and reported she saw Nurse Jung-soo put 2 bottles of anesthetic into her bag, which was also a hidden corner of the camera. Ju-jin told her to leave this matter to her. On this side, Nurse Hee-jeon gave Ju-jin a list of emergency cases at Daejeon Hospital. Jung-soo had been working at the hospital for 4 years, and since then, the number of deaths had doubled. When the 3 nurses were having lunch with Jung-soo, they all received a text message from Nurse Hee-jeon. She asked the 3 of them to go to Ju-jin's room immediately. The 3 nurses quickly went to see him. When they arrived, he gave them some money to celebrate. At this time, Jung-soo took advantage of the time when no one was around to sneak into the medicine storage room. He opened the cabinet and took 2 bottles of medicine. This was recorded by a hidden camera. Jung-soo put the stolen medicine in his personal locker. The next morning, Young Min went to Ha-jun's house. Ji-hyun said she wouldn't go to his house. When Young Min said she would go find Ha-yoon, Ji-hyun and Ha-jun happily stood up. Young Min went to school to find Mi-ri. Then he sat down to eat fruit with her and a group of female classmates. Young Min asked Ha-yoon if she had come to Mi-ri's house to play because the supermarket owner said she had invited Ha-yoon to come home to play. Mi-ra, who was sitting next to her, said that Mi-ri's parents didn't go on vacation anymore, so Ha-eun didn't come to her house anymore. Ji-hyun realized that Mi-ra was the leader of this group of girls, so she told Young Min to stay calm and not be fooled by them. When Young Min asked the girls if they were the last people to see Ha-eun before she disappeared, they immediately showed worry on their faces. A female student said that Ha-eun was rumored to be dating a man. They showed Young Min a picture in which Ha-eun was standing and talking to a man. Mi-ri looked at the picture and remembered that she was forced to meet this man to buy cigarettes. When he loudly yelled at Mi-ri, Ha-eun appeared to rescue her. Ha-eun also threatened to call the police to arrest him. After that, she kicked him in the groin and quickly ran away with Mi-ri. Young Min wanted to ask Mi-ri a few more questions, but Mi-ra kept stopping her and answering for her. When Young Min asked if Mi-ri had gone with Ha-in to buy a game console, she immediately stood up and quickly left. The next day, Young Min drove Ji-hyun to continue investigating. At this time, a motorcyclist was coming very quickly from behind. He crashed into a woman crossing the street. Young Min immediately ran out to see how the woman was. When he saw the motorcyclist about to run away, Young Min immediately rushed over to get the car key. He strangled the motorcyclist. Then the police came and arrested the motorcyclist. Young Min told Ji-hyun that ever since his mother was hit by a motorbike, he went crazy every time he saw such dangerous drivers. Young Min used to wander around all day hanging signs looking for witnesses and handing out flyers, hoping to find the criminal who hit his mother. At that time, his grandmother's diabetes was getting worse, but Young Min didn't have money to take her to the hospital. His mother's taxi couldn't be sold either, so he drove a taxi to earn money. Ji-hyun secretly sat next to Mira to see what they were saying to Miri. Mira asked Miri not to tell anyone about this secret. A female student working in the supermarket brought out alcohol and cigarettes to give to Mira, but she asked the female student to buy more. When Mira saw that Miri seemed to feel sorry for her, Mira immediately told Miri to go back to work at the supermarket. Ji-hyun gets in the car and tells Young Min that it turns out Miri went to work part-time to pay tribute to Mira for alcohol and cigarettes. She then tells him to drive and follow Miri. Mira also sees Young Min driving and chasing Miri. He runs out and asks to ask her something, but she refuses. But when Miri sees Ha-jun in the car, she agrees to get in the taxi. In the car, Ha-jun tells Miri that because Ha-eun wasn't home, she fell ill. Ha-jun asks Miri if she knows where her sister is. At this time, Miri receives a phone call from Mira. In the evening, Young Min goes to an empty lot as directed by Miri. A man comes out and asks Young Min if he is Han's uncle. Then two more men with baseball bats come out to deal with him. The three of them claim to be Mira's accomplices and started attacking Young Min. Young Min dropped the phone on the ground. Miri watched from afar. Then she decided to stop a car to ask for help. Coincidentally, the people in the car were police officer Chang Suk and his colleagues. Young Min now couldn't fight back against the three thugs, so he was continuously beaten hard by them. Ji-hyun wanted to help him, but couldn't do anything. Young Min crawled to get the phone, but he was hit in the hand by the thug. He was about to hit Young Min again when two policemen appeared and took down the three thugs. Young Min also realized that he had just been saved by two policemen. When Young Min drove away, Ji-hyun scolded him for rushing out when they were holding baseball bats. If they hit him in the head, it would be very dangerous. Young Min said he would rather be beaten than let the phone be broken, because if the phone was broken, Ji-hyun would disappear. When she asked Young Min if it was okay to drive with one hand, he said he had practiced before because he wanted to hold his lover's hand while driving. Then Young Min went to the hospital so Ji could bandage his hand. Joo-jin said that he didn't have any broken bones, so his hand only needed to be bandaged for a few days. Hee-jeon walked over and nodded to Young Min. Ji-hyun felt that she looked familiar. Joo-jin said a few words of encouragement to Young Min and continued to work. When Young Min and Ji-hyun walked out of the hospital, she was sure that Ha-eun didn't run away from home, so Mira tried to hide something. The next day, Mira went to the supermarket and asked Miri if she had called the police to arrest Mira's brothers last night. She also used her sister's safety to threaten Miri. On this side, Young Min printed out a lot of flyers to look for Ha-eun. He asked his colleagues to help him distribute the flyers. A while later, while Young Min was distributing the flyers, he received a call from Ha-jun. The boy told him some bad news. Young Min drove Ji-hyun to a deserted lake. The police announced that they had found Ha-jun's backpack and suicide note on her phone there. She left an apology to her grandmother and younger brother. Ha-eun might have left this world on her own, and the police were trying to find her body. Ji-hyun said that it wasn't Ha-eun's suicide note because she had read all of Ha-eun's notes last time. She always called herself older sister when she wrote notes to her younger brother. And why wasn't Ha-eun's phone locked? It was as if she had intentionally let others read her suicide note. It seemed like someone had brought Ha-eun's belongings here. At the same time, Miri was working part-time at a convenience store when Ha-jun called to inform her that the police had found Ha-eun's suicide note by the riverbank. Miri then picked up a cup of coffee and threw it straight at Mira. She did this to rescue the female student who was working at the supermarket. Miri was not afraid and led the female student home. She went home to meet Young Min and told him everything. That day, Miri was being bullied by Mira and her gang when Ha-eun ran to rescue her. Ha-eun also threatened Mira that she would report them to the anti-school violence committee. Ha-eun and Mira then grabbed each other's hair, and Mira pushed Ha-eun down a slope. Ha-eun was hit by a rock and fell unconscious. Mira touched Ha-eun's body and said she was dead, so she used leaves to cover Ha-eun's body. Miri wanted to call the police, but was stopped by Mira. Mira threatened that if Miri told anyone about this, she would end up like Ha-eun. Then Mira and her gang used leaves to cover Ha-eun's body. At that time, Miri could not do anything. Now she begged Young Min to take Ha-eun out of the mountain. The three of them went to the area where Ha-eun fell to search. Miri felt mentally shocked and did not have enough strength to continue, so Young Min and Ji-hyun continued to search. At this time, Ha-eun was covered in leaves, but her hands suddenly moved when she heard someone calling her name. Ji-hyun told Young Min that if Ha-eun was really dead, her soul was still around here. But Ji-hyun did not not see any soul, so Ha-eun might still be alive. Then Youngmin tripped over a tree and fell. Unexpectedly, Jihyun was able to use her hand to pull him back. Jihyun discovered Ha-eun lying underneath. Youngmin immediately ran to remove the leaves from her body. He discovered that Ha-eun was still alive, but her body was cold. Youngmin hurriedly took Ha-eun to the emergency room. Joo-jin personally carried her onto the stretcher. Youngmin told Miri to go home first. Youngmin was here. Joo-jin entered the room and pulled Jung-soo outside. Joo-jin announced that he was fired from this moment. Then the boy Ha-jun and his grandmother also arrived at the hospital. Everyone waited anxiously outside the emergency room. Inside, Joo-jin was trying to give Ha-eun cardiac compressions, but the electrocardiogram machine showed straight lines. When the nurse invited Ha-eun's grandmother to report the situation, Ha-eun's soul suddenly appeared. The little girl shed tears and thanked Youngmin and Jihyun for helping her reunite with her younger brother. The boy Ha-jun was also very panicked because he knew that his sister's soul had left her body. Then Ha-eun also disappeared right in front of her younger brother, which made Ha-jun burst into tears. In the emergency room, So-ji told Joo-jin not to try anymore, but suddenly the electrocardiogram machine had a signal again. Ha-eun's pulse also beat again due to spontaneous recovery of the heart rate. After that, Ha-eun escaped death and regained consciousness. Her grandmother gave Youngmin a stack of money as a thank you, but he returned it and told her to use it to send Ha-eun to college. Ha-eun hugged Youngmin and said that his taxi had fulfilled the boy's wish. Miri went to the hospital to visit Ha-eun. Ha-eun was not angry with her best friend, but she happily talked to Miri. Meanwhile, Mira was sent to a youth center. Outside, Jung-soo was packing his things to leave the hospital because he was caught on camera stealing medicine. He ambushed and grabbed Joo-jin by the neck and said Jung-soo knew Joo-jin was pretending to be a good person. Jung-soo was about to hit him when So-ji appeared and threatened to call security, so Jung-soo had to pack his things and leave the hospital. So-ji felt worried, so he said he would take Joo-jin home, but he asked So-ji to have dinner with him. A radio bulletin board started sharing a letter. The owner of that letter was a boy named Ha-jun. In the letter, the boy wanted to introduce a male taxi driver. When his sister went missing, everyone abandoned her. Only Youngmin tried his best to find Ha-eun. She fell down the mountain just 10 minutes later, and Ha-jun would not have seen her again, so he was very grateful to Youngmin. There are still wonderful taxi drivers in society. They help the elderly go on a picnic once a month. They take patients to the hospital themselves instead of ambulances. There are also female taxi drivers with their mothers who have lost their memories. They are the vehicles that carry happiness. Jihyun and Youngmin were very happy when listening to the news. She asked him what his dream was, because he always worked hard to fulfill the ghost's wish. Now Jihyun will fulfill Youngmin's wish. He leaned close to her and asked what her wish was now. Then Youngmin made his mother's bed because Jihyun said she wanted to sleep on a soft bed. Youngmin also installed a cushion on the passenger seat of the taxi so Jihyun could sit more comfortably. He also put in a lemon-flavored deodorant that Jihyun loved. When the two of them were huddled together to sniff the deodorant, Jihyun remembered what Shin-woo had said to her. If a ghost falls in love with a human, it will also be released, so she immediately stays away from Youngmin. Then Jihyun asks him to tell her his wish. Youngmin says he wants to go to Namsan with his lover to hang a love law. Now he wants to go there with her. He frankly admits that he likes her, but Jihyun immediately says that she can't like him back because ghosts and humans can't love each other. Youngmin is alive and Jihyun is dead. If he likes her, there will be no future, only suffering, so he doesn't need to treat her well anymore. Youngmin then asks if she's moved because he treated her well. After that, the two of them also go to Namsan. Jihyun asks Youngmin to call her sister from now on, but he argues that no one calls the person they love sister. Then Youngmin engraves his and Jihyun's names on the love law. She asked him not to draw a heart in the middle, but to draw a triangle or a square, but Youngmin still decided to draw a heart in the middle of the two names. Although Youngmin was discriminated against by other couples for coming here alone, he still happily hung the love key on the bridge. Unexpectedly, Youngmin met Joo-jin and So-ji, who were also here. Joo-jin told the two of them to have dinner together and then come here to take a walk. Jihyun looked at this doctor and remembered that he had bandaged her wound when she was alive, and she had registered to date this doctor. She immediately told Youngmin to show her photo to Gyujin. Youngmin showed the photo and asked Gyujin if she knew Jihyun. The doctor said that she used to be his patient, but unfortunately she had died. Gyujin also said that Jihyun was a very smart and kind inspector, so Ji also told her to go to the emergency room because of an accident. Dr. Gyujin asked why Youngmin asked about Jihyun. Youngmin replied that he saw her taking a picture with his mother, so he was curious to know who she was. So Ji asked Youngmin if he came here alone. No matter how long he had been single, he shouldn't have come to this place alone. Jihyun was very happy to know that she was indeed a female inspector. Youngmin then mustered up the courage to ask Gyujin if he had dated the girl in the picture, but the doctor immediately shook his head. This action revelation made both Soji and Youngmin breathe a sigh of relief. In the car, Jihyun was very proud of herself as a kind female inspector, but Youngmin argued that what if she was a bad female inspector and specialized in taking bribes? She was also rejected by Gyujin for a date. Jihyun immediately said that she must have remembered the date wrongly. A moment after Jihyun entered the room, she saw Youngmin searching for information about her accident, but he couldn't find anything, so he decided to go to the police station tomorrow to ask. The next day, Youngmin went to the police station and showed the two policemen a photo of Jihyun and her mother. Youngmin wanted to know information about the family of the female inspector Jihyun because she and Youngmin's mother died on the same day. He wanted to know what her relationship was with his mother. Chang-suk told Jihyun and his mother that they only knew each other when they were in the same taxi and that the two accidents were unrelated. Jihyun's family was currently in great grief, so Youngmin shouldn't go there because it would make them even more grief-stricken. Jihyun immediately told him not to give up. Youngmin said that his mother had been dead for 4 months and the police hadn't found the culprit who caused the accident, so Youngmin would now go catch the culprit himself. He still tried to get Jihyun's family's phone number. Gyujin kept thinking about picture Youngmin showed him, so he asked Soji about Youngmin. At this time, Jung-soo was standing outside. He went in and shouted Gyujin's name loudly. He also took out a knife. After a while of struggling, Jung-soo slashed Gyujin's shoulder. Then the security guard appeared and chased Jung-soo. Youngmin went to see Hwang Song alone to ask what the ghost liked. Hwang Song said he was being bewitched by Jihyun, but that was good too, because that could help her go to heaven. No matter how much Jihyun resented him, as long as she knew how to love, she could go to heaven. Youngmin went home and remembered that Jihyun had deliberately avoided him every time he showed his feelings for her, so Youngmin was determined not to show his feelings for Jihyun anymore. Two policemen came to the hospital to investigate why nurse Jung-soo attacked Dr. Gyujin. The doctor said that Jung-soo probably hated him for being fired. He stole the hospital's general anesthetic and the scene was caught on camera. When the two policemen left, Heejun ran after her and said that she wanted to report something strange related to Jung-soo. Since he started working at Daehan Hospital, the number of deaths in the emergency room has increased a lot. Gyujin asked what Heejun said to the police. She also told him what she had just reported to the police. Gyujin immediately praised her for doing a good job. When Youngmin was driving a taxi to work, he saw his grandmother working as a crosswalk guide at an intersection. He ran out and asked why she was working there. He was very worried about his grandmother's health, but his grandmother said that they would talk when they got home. She bowed to the old man who worked with her standing across the street. Youngmin went home and told his grandmother to quit her part-time job. When his grandmother still stubbornly refused to quit her job, Youngmin asked her if she was dating the old man standing across from her. She dressed so beautifully every day because of him, right? When her grandmother heard this, she was very angry and said she would quit her job. Jihyun blamed Youngmin for saying such outrageous things. He said that his grandmother only went to work to help him pay off his debt, but now that the interest had been paid off, he and his grandmother were not kicked out of the house for the time being. But he didn't know when Youngmin would pay off his debt. Jihyun went back to her room and sat thinking of ways to attract more customers, but she couldn't find a suitable way. The next morning, Jihyun saw her grandmother happily preparing breakfast for Youngmin. Her grandmother kept muttering that Youngmin was too worried about her health, so she didn't let her go to work. She also wanted to pair him up with a good girl before she died. Youngmin came out and apologized to his grandmother for getting angry with her last night. His grandmother knew that Youngmin was worried about her, so she didn't blame him. Then, she told Youngmin to enjoy the food she had prepared. After a while, Jihyun got out of the car and said hello to Youngmin, but he tried to act indifferent. When Youngmin remembered Hwang Song's warning, he coldly drove away in a taxi alone and left Jihyun at home. Then Youngmin went to the detective office. He came here to meet Detective Gubong to investigate. Youngmin showed Jihyun's photo and asked Gubong if he knew her. The detective said that because of her, he was summoned to the police station several times. Then he found a reason to chase Youngmin away. Youngmin still tried to ask for Jihyun's relatives' contact information, but he was chased out of his office by the detective. After a while, Gubong picked up a business card. He remembered that Jihyun's father had come here to see him. Jihyun's father took out the business card and introduced himself as a police officer. He asked Gubong to hand over the photos he had secretly taken of Jihyun. Gubong refused and said that he could not reveal the secret of the client who hired him and that he had already deleted those photos. Jihyun's father said that cooperating with him was the only way for Gubong to survive. Because the detective knew the secret of the person who hired him to take photos, he would not let him go. Youngmin went to Daehan Hospital to see Soji. He wanted to ask for more information about Jihyun's accident. Soji said that she was taken to the emergency room. Then Jihyun was transferred to the intensive care unit, and suddenly suddenly she died of cardiac arrest. When Youngmin asked for Jihyun's family contact information, Soji refused to reveal the hospital's client information. In the evening, Youngmin drove home and apologized to Jihyun because he had urgent business, so he left her home alone. Jihyun said that he was the business director of the ghost taxi. How could he leave her behind and go? But Youngmin said that he and she didn't need to be together all the time. Jihyun followed her upstairs and told Youngmin that she remembered many incomplete memories all day, but they were all related to Daehan Hospital, so she wanted Youngmin to go with her to that hospital to find clues, but he used all kinds of excuses to refuse her. After that, Youngmin saw Jihyun crying because of the pain, so he had to take her to Daehan Hospital to investigate. Joo-jin saw Youngmin standing talking to herself, so the doctor came to ask why Youngmin came to the hospital at this time. Youngmin said that an acquaintance was hospitalized, so he came here to visit. Joo-jin left. When he turned back to look, he saw that Youngmin was talking to himself again. Youngmin and Jihyun went into the medical equipment storage room to investigate when a black mist rushed over. A male ghost named Ma Dong appeared. He explained that he was not an evil ghost because Ma Dong still wanted to meet someone, so he stayed here. He said that he had stayed here for 5 years, so he knew a lot about what happened in this hospital. Ma Dong asked the two people if they were from the ghost taxi. Then he asked them to help him fulfill his wish. When Ma Dong said he didn't have money, Jihyun immediately refused his request, but he promised to provide them with information about this hospital. After listening, Youngmin immediately agreed to help Ma Dong. Jihyun stopped him, saying that he didn't need money to pay off his debt. Youngmin said the most important thing now was to investigate her accident. Then Ma Dong led the two to the place where his ashes were kept. He said his wish was to find his daughter Se-ra. After Ma Dong's wife died early, he was too busy making money, so he sent his daughter to his sister's house. Ma Dong also rarely visited his daughter, and then Se-ra went abroad to study. Later, Ma Dong found out that his daughter hated him very much. She also cut off contact with her father's sister, so Ma Dong hoped that Youngmin could help him find Se-ra. When the three of them were in a taxi, Ma Dong told Youngmin to go to the police station to meet Inspector Kang, because when he was alive, Ma Dong was also a policeman. Inspector Kang was his good colleague, and it seemed like he had Se-ra's phone number. When Youngmin arrived at the police station, the staff said Inspector Kang was on leave. By law, the staff cannot give Youngmin his phone number, so Youngmin has no choice but to leave his phone number, and the staff will give it back to Inspector Kang. The three of them sadly leave, but Jihyun feels that this place is very familiar to her. At this time, a couple was brought to Daehan Hospital for emergency treatment. They had a very serious accident. Gyujin and the nursing team performed emergency treatment on the couple. After a while, the wife regained her heartbeat, but the husband did not survive. The husband's ghost began to leave his body and told Gyujin that he and his wife had just gotten married today, but he was passed through by Dr. Gyujin. Gyujin confirmed that the husband had died. The husband tried to hold his wife's hand but could not. He burst into tears and then disappeared. Youngmin and Jihyun stood outside, sadly watching. When the two returned home, Jihyun told Youngmin that she had tried to be cold to him so that she would not be released. But today, when she witnessed the broken scene of the newlywed couple, Jihyun realized that no matter how much they loved each other, one day they would have to part. So Jihyun and Youngmin could never be happy together, but she still longed for him to be by her side like now. Youngmin immediately said that he would always be there when she needed him. Then, he gently kissed her on the lips. At night, Jihyun kept thinking about Kiss just now, and Youngmin felt regretful for confessing too cheesy. The next morning, Grandma was very surprised to see Youngmin dressed up, so she immediately asked him if he was going on a date. Youngmin also nodded in agreement. Grandma was very happy to hear this news, so she immediately made Youngmin a beautiful hairstyle. She also helped him choose a suitable outfit for his first date. When Jihyun saw Youngmin's serious appearance, she couldn't help but laugh. She adjusted a few details on his outfit and complimented him on how handsome he was. When the two were in the taxi, Jihyun asked Youngmin where he was taking her. He replied that he was taking her on a date. Last night, Youngmin had been studying the schedule all night. He wanted their first date to be romantic. He wanted to take Jihyun to a restaurant and an amusement park, but she asked to go to the lakeside to enjoy the scenery because she wanted to save money for Youngmin. After that, the two of them went for a walk. Youngmin asked Jihyun to hold his hand, but this time they couldn't hold hands. Youngmin said that they had held hands last time. Jihyun immediately tried her best to hit him, but their hands still passed through each other. She tried again, but their hands still couldn't touch each other. A while later, Jihyun and Youngmin watched the sunset together, and she thanked Youngmin for always being by her side. Youngmin said that Hwang Sung told him that if a ghost truly loved him, he would go to heaven. But why was Jihyun still here? Youngmin doubted whether she truly loved him, and Jihyun also doubted his feelings. Youngmin said that he would do everything he could to prove his feelings, but Jihyun was angry and said he wanted to go home. After that, the two of them left together. When Young Min entered the house, his grandmother asked him if he had a good date today. Young Min replied that he was unhappy because she doubted his feelings. Ji-hyun heard and angrily went back to her room. Young Min went to see Hwang Song and told him the truth. Young Min and Ji-hyun really love each other and have confessed their love, but why is her soul still here? Hwang Song said that maybe they don't really love each other, or she is another existence, not a ghost. Young Min returned home and received a call from Inspector Kang. He immediately asked him if he still remembered Ma Dong. The next morning, Young Min told Ji-hyun that Inspector Kang called him last night to meet him, so he and Ji-hyun should stop arguing. Ji-hyun said that she used to be an inspector, so she wouldn't let her emotions affect her work. Then the two of them went to a coffee shop with Ma Dong to wait to meet Inspector Khan. When Ji-hyun saw him appear, she was very emotional. She cried and felt heartbroken, so she immediately went to the taxi. Young Min worriedly ran out to ask about her situation. Ji-hyun said that she suddenly felt a pain in her chest. He should go in there and continue. Inspector Kang had been indebted to Ma Dong when he was alive, so Inspector Kang wanted to find Ma Dong's daughter to say thank you. So Young Min wanted to find out more information about Se-ra. Inspector Kang said that Se-ra lived in America, but she is currently in Korea. Se-ra came here to attend a conference. Suddenly Inspector Kang remembered that he needed to give something to Se-ra. Then when the three of them returned to the hospital, Ma Dong revealed to Young Min that Jung-soo's personal locker contained a very dangerous drug, but Ma Dong only told half of the secret. Ma Dong would reveal more when his wish was fulfilled. He proudly came to watch the robot technology conference where Se-ra gave a speech. Ji-hyun felt unwell while sitting near Inspector Kang, so she told Young Min that she was going out for a bit. When the speech ended, Ma Dong went up on stage to see his daughter's face more clearly. He kept saying that he missed her so much. Inspector Kang and Young Min approached Se-ra one by one, introducing themselves as Ma Dong's acquaintances, but Se-ra said she had nothing to do with him. She didn't want to hear about him. Inspector Kang gave Se-ra a USB and said Ma Dong always carried it with him and looked at it every day. Now Inspector Kang gave it back to Se-ra. It was her right to throw it away or keep it. After saying that, Inspector Kang left. Young Min chased after Se-ra and said that her father was actually standing here. His spirit was standing in front of her, but Se-ra said that she was a scientist, so she didn't believe in ghosts like that. Young Min then recounted what Ma Dong was saying. He apologized for sending Se-ra to her sister's house when she was little after his wife passed away. He also apologized for not buying his daughter a strawberry cake on her birthday, but Se-ra didn't want to listen and left. Then she decided to plug the USB into the computer. Se-ra watched a video. It recorded the process from when she was born until she was in middle school. In the video, Se-ra's father also appeared, but Se-ra closed the computer and didn't watch it anymore. The next day, Ma Dong looked at his daughter from afar and said that now he had to throw away all attachments and leave the world because he was satisfied with how talented Se-ra was. When Se-ra stepped up to try the stage before her speech, suddenly a lamp fell. Ma Dong flew to hug his daughter and dodged the lamp. Se-ra also felt her father's soul had just saved her life. Young Min came to see Se-ra and said that a few months ago his mother had an accident and passed away. He wanted to apologize to his mother but couldn't because she passed away so suddenly. Young Min can see the souls of the dead, so he met Se-ra's father. But Young Min can't see his mother's soul, but he knows that his mother is always watching over him. Se-ra's father is the same. He wandered the world for 5 years just because he was worried about her. The next day, Young Min informed Ma Dong that Se-ra had called to meet him, which made Ma Dong very excited. Se-ra asked Young Min to go to the place where her father's remains were kept. Everyone went to Ma Dong's resting place. Se-ra asked if he was still there. When Young Min said that Ma Dong was standing next to her, she said that she used to hate and blame her father a lot. She knew that her father saved her life yesterday. Only now did she understand that her father didn't abandon her. It turned out that her father missed Se-ra as much as she missed him. Se-ra knew that her father loved her, but she didn't understand why her father valued work more than his daughter. But Se-ra no longer resented Ma Dong, so he could leave the world in peace. Ma Dong hugged his daughter and disappeared into thin air. Se-ra burst into tears. Young Min and Ji-hyun went to Daehan Hospital to find out what the strange medicine in Jung-soo's medicine cabinet was. Young Min begged So-ji to let him see Jung-soo's closet because he needed to confirm something. Although So-ji refused the request, Young Min kept begging and So-ji agreed to help him. But then So-ji announced that Jung-soo had cleaned out the closet. Young Min immediately asked for his address. So-ji advised Young Min not to try to investigate anymore, but to focus on working to take care of his grandmother. Let the police investigate this case themselves. But Young Min wanted So-ji to tell him Jung-soo's address. When he and Ji-hyun went to the apartment where Jung-soo was living, they saw a ghost girl named Mi-kyung there. She asked Young Min to help her find Jung-soo. When Mi-kyung turned back, her face was nowhere to be seen. Then her real face appeared. Mi-kyung led the two into Jung-soo's house, which was also where her body was lying. Young-min asked if Jung-soo was the cause of her death, but Mi-kyung affirmed that Jung-soo treated her very well, so he would not harm her. Mi-kyung asked Young-min to help her find Jung-soo. She could not be released without meeting him. Young-min entered Jung-soo's room and saw many photos of funerals posted in the room. There were also photos of Ji-hyun crying for So-hee and photos of Young-min crying at her mother's funeral. At this time, Father Khan went to a hospital. He went into an intensive care room to visit his daughter. She was lying unconscious and breathing on a ventilator, and suddenly she had a seizure. On this side, Ji-hyun felt her soul was melting. In the hospital room, the doctor and nurse ran in to check and give Ji-hyun an injection. They informed Ji-hyun's father that she was out of danger. On this side, Ji-hyun's soul also returned to normal. When Mi-kyung entered, Young-min immediately said that until now she still didn't admit that Jung-soo was the culprit. Mi-kyung said that this was the first time she had seen these photos. The photos weren't here before because she went into this room to clean every day. Mi-kyung was sure that Jung-soo wasn't the culprit. When Young-min went out and was about to report Mi-kyung's death to the police, Hee-jeon suddenly came home. She realized that she had met Young-min once before. When she entered the house, she saw a dead body lying on the ground. Then, the police came to investigate the scene and arrested Young-min because Hee-jeon had reported to the police that Young-min was culprit. When Young-min was taken away, she informed Kyu-jin that Young-min had been arrested by the police. It turned out that Hee-jeon had known Ju-jin for a long time. When he was a child, Ju-jin was constantly beaten by his chairman father. At that time, Hee-jeon ran to the rescue and threatened to call the police if Ju-jin's father did not stop beating his son. Hee-jeon told the boy Ju-jin that from now on she would be by his side to protect him. The two policemen looked at all the photos taken at the funeral and they tentatively concluded that Jung-soo was the culprit of these deaths. Young-min was taken to the police station and handed over all his personal belongings. He was locked in a cell. Ji-hyun sat with Young-min and apologized to him, saying that if only she were still alive, she could testify for him. But now Ji-hyun is just a useless ghost. Young-min immediately said he was innocent, so he would be released sooner or later. He was in a cell with the person he loved, so he didn't want to go out anymore. As long as Young-min could be with Ji-hyun, even if that place was hell, he would accept it. Ji-hyun smiled and said she was the same. Then, 3 of Young-min's colleagues came to visit him. Young-min said he was misunderstood and would be released soon. He also told everyone not to tell his grandmother about this. A colleague immediately thought of a good way, which was to tell his grandmother that Young-min had taken a foreign customer away for a few days. His grandmother received a phone call from Jin-woo. Jin-woo informed that Young-min had taken a customer on a trip abroad and that he would not be able to return until a few days later. The rule when transporting foreign customers is not to use personal phones because customers are very uncomfortable when the driver keeps speaking Korean, so Young-min turned off his phone. His grandmother believed this reason. Ji-hyun began to support Young-min in his statement to the police. Chang-suk asked why the apartment door was locked, why Young-min was able to enter the house. He said the door was open at that time. There was a magnetic flyer stuck to the door, so the door was not locked. When Chang-suk asked why Young-min went to Jung-soo's house, Ji-hyun advised Young-min on how to answer. Young-min suspected that he had attacked his mother because So-ji had previously told him that Jung-soo had stolen medicine from the hospital and was fired. Young-min found him very suspicious. The building where Jung-soo lived was also near where his mother had an accident. Not long after, the police opened Young-min's cell. They announced that he was released because the autopsy results showed that the body in the apartment had been dead for more than a week, and there were no fingerprints of Young-min on the syringe. The police found the motorcycle, helmet, and gloves in a deserted area. The DNA test results of the hair stuck on the helmet were Jung-soo's, so the police concluded that he was a serial killer. Young-min asked if he was the one who killed his mother and Ji-hyun, and Chang-suk replied that it was highly likely that Jung-soo was the culprit. The police were issuing a nationwide warrant for him, so Young-min should not investigate on his own. Previously, someone drove a motorcycle to a deserted area, which was the same motorcycle that hit Young-min's mother. That person intentionally left the motorcycle here so that the police could find and investigate. When Young-min was leaving, he suddenly saw a picture of female Inspector Ji-hyun. In the picture, she was standing next to Inspector Kang. Ji-hyun also remembered that he was her biological father and that they had taken this picture together. Ji-hyun immediately burst into tears. Ji-hyun told Young-min that she could only remember the memories of the day she took picture with her father. Ji-hyun also told him not to tell Inspector Kang that she was next to him because if he knew she was a ghost with no memories, he would be heartbroken. Then the two went to Ji-hyun's biological father's house. Young-min asked to enter the house and said he had something to tell about Ji-hyun. Young-min told Inspector Kang that his mother was a taxi driver named Jin Suk. 4 months ago she had a traffic accident and died. Coincidentally, Ji-hyun also died on that day. The two of them had a pretty close relationship. Young Min also showed a photo of them together. He also said that he was quite close to Ji-hyun. From the beginning, he thought that his mother's accident and Ji-hyun's were related, so he secretly investigated. When Inspector Kang said that the police had speculated that Jung-soo was the culprit, but Young Min said that he still doubted the police's conclusion, so he came here to ask how Ji-hyun died. Inspector Kang doesn't trust Young Min yet. He needs more time to think. In the evening when Young Min got home, he looked out the window and saw Ji-hyun sitting in the car crying, so he went out to comfort her. Ji-hyun said that she cried because she felt sorry for her father. At this time, she realized something strange. She heard that ghosts who fall in love will be released. Ji-hyun also knows who she is and met her father. The day she was at Jung-soo's house, her soul melted but still couldn't be released. If the real culprit is caught, then Ji-hyun's soul will truly be released. Young Min sadly asked her if she really wanted to break up with him. Ji-hyun immediately said that she didn't mean it like that. On this side, Ji-hyun's father was talking to his unconscious daughter. Today, Young Min came to ask him about her and Jin-suk's death. Because Inspector Kang didn't trust Young Min, he didn't tell him that Ji-hyun was still alive. The next morning, Ji-hyun apologized to Young Min because she had no intention of leaving him. Young Min said he didn't blame Ji-hyun. He knew that only when the real culprit was caught would his mother be able to go to heaven. Ji-hyun could also go to a good place, then she wouldn't have to wander anymore. Young Min had wanted Ji-hyun to stay with him forever, but he knew that sooner or later they would have to part. Breaking up with Ji-hyun made Young Min very heartbroken. In the end, he apologized to her for yesterday. Then the two of them went to see Mi-kyung together. Mi-kyung affirmed that Jung-soo treated her very well, but he was convicted of killing Mi-kyung. Every time a patient died in the hospital, Jung-soo was the one who was most heartbroken. Mi-kyung affirmed that he absolutely did not harm them. Ji-hyun asked Mi-kyung to think about who was the murderer who killed her, but Mi-kyung was not conscious at that time because of the effects of the drug, so she did not remember who the culprit was. However, Mi-kyung was sure that Jung-soo was not the culprit. Then Mi-kyung led Young Min and Ji-hyun to a house, which could be where Jung-soo was hiding. Mi-kyung said that she and Jung-soo used to fish here with Hee-jeon. This villa belonged to Hee-jeon. Ji-hyun wondered about Hee-jeon's wealth. Then Mi-kyung said that she only came from an orphanage. Young Min tried to open the doors, but they were all locked. Ji-hyun said that she and Mi-kyung would go in there and see. At this time, Gyu-jin was observing through the camera. He saw Young Min was at Hee-jeon's villa. He was very curious how Young Min knew where to go. A moment later, the souls of the two girls came out and said that there was nothing inside. Mi-kyung said that Jung-soo really liked this place. A few days ago, there was a car accident in the building where he lived, so Jung-soo asked Hee-jeon to borrow this place to celebrate Mi-kyung's birthday. That day, Jung-soo came here at 12 o'clock at night. On this side, Gyu-jin looked at the camera and saw Young Min driving home alone. He wondered what Young Min knew. Gyu-jin immediately called Hee-jeon to inform him that Young Min had just arrived at her villa. Gyu-jin also asked if she had told Young Min anything. That evening, Young Min and Ji-hyun went to the house to wait for Inspector Khan to come home from work. Ji-hyun said that she found something very strange. When Hee-jeon saw Mi-kyung's body in the house, she did not show any surprise or fear. It seemed that she already knew that Mi-kyung was dead. Even though Hee-jeon was a nurse, when she saw her neighbor murdered, she must have been very panicked. So Ji-hyun felt that Hee-jeon was very suspicious. When Inspector Kang returns home, Young Min continues to ask him about Ji-hyun's death. He told Young Min everything. Ji-hyun's best friend ever. So he was pregnant when she suddenly died at Daeho Hospital. Ji-hyun discovered the secret of Detective Gu Bong, who specialized in taking pictures of the families of the deceased crying and suffering. Gu Bong confessed to Ji-hyun that he was ordered by someone to take pictures of the families of the deceased patients at Daeho Hospital. While Ji-hyun was searching for the mastermind, an accident happened. Inspector Kang asked Young Min why she didn't believe Jung-soo was the culprit. Young Min immediately said that the motorcyclist who hit his mother had fled that day. Then he threw Ji-hyun to the ground and left. Even if Jung-soo was the one who hit the car, he wasn't the one who abandoned Ji-hyun, because at that time he was somewhere else. At that time, Eun-soo was taking her mother to Daehan Hospital for emergency treatment because she fainted in the bathroom. When Gyu-jin called, she was still open-eyed and conscious. So Soo's mother was taken away for further tests. So Ji told Gyu-jin that the daughter of the person who fell earlier was a taxi driver who was very close to Young Min. She was famous for being a filial female driver. When Gyu-jin heard this, he immediately thought of a new plot. He went over and informed Eun-soo that her mother was not seriously injured, but because she had an underlying disease, she had to be hospitalized for 2 days. When Gyu-jin saw Eun-soo encouraging and taking care of her mother, he had a vicious thought. That night, Hee-jeon ran after her and asked where Gyu-jin was going. He said he had some work to do and left. On this side, Young Min and Inspector Khan went to see Chang-soo. They wanted to ask the police to investigate the nurse. Hee-jeon When the police asked for the reason, both of them said that on the night of the accident, Jung-soo had passed through a toll booth at around 11 o'clock at night. He had rented a car at that time. Inspector Kang had looked at the black box of the rented car and knew that Jung-soo was not the one who abandoned Ji-hyun. In addition, Hee-jeon also owned a villa in the suburbs. Although she was an orphan, her university tuition was also borrowed from the government. The apartment Hee-jeon was living in was rented. She lived on the same floor as Jung-soo in the apartment building, and she also had a close relationship with him, so Hee-jeon might know Jung-soo's whereabouts. Chang-suk did not want to accept the clues that the two people provided because Chang-suk wanted to investigate in his own way. But Inspector Kang loudly said that the police were not people who had lost loved ones, so they were not in a hurry to catch the real culprit. Inspector Kang then said that he would investigate Detective Gu Bong with the police. Young Min was going to go along to see the detective, but suddenly he received a phone call informing him that Eun-soo's mother had just passed away. Ju-jin went to the funeral to offer his condolences to Eun-soo. He pretended to be heartbroken and apologized to her. Eun-soo also said that the doctor had tried his best, and then she bowed her head to thank him. Ju-jin patted Eun-soo on the shoulder to comfort her. Young Min and Ji-hyun also went to the funeral. Suddenly Ji-hyun saw Ju-jin covering his mouth and smiling, so she told Young Min to look at him. Young Min looked in Ju-jin's direction and saw that he was sincerely offering his condolences to Eun-soo. Then, the doctor came out to talk to Young Min. Ji-hyun told him to ask why Ju-jin had smiled earlier, but Young Min didn't dare ask that question. Dr. Ju-jin blamed himself because he couldn't save Eun-soo's mother. Young Min bows to say goodbye to Ju-jin, who refuses to ask Ji-hyun's question. Young Min says that she must have seen wrongly because no doctor would smile at a patient's funeral. Then the two of them and the two male drivers bow to say goodbye to Eun-soo's mother. Ji-hyun tries to look around to see if she can see her spirit. The two male drivers tell Young Min that Eun-soo's mother fell and showed signs of a traumatic brain injury, but she is fine now. Eun-soo's mother died of an acute myocardial infarction. Young Min remembers that she had amnesia but was in good health. When Young Min and Ji-hyun get out of the taxi to leave, they see Eun-soo's mother's spirit sitting inside the car. She asks Young Min to call Eun-soo out. Young Min pulls her out of the car and says that her mother is here. Ji-hyun then asks Eun-soo's mother to tell a memory that only the two of them will know. Eun-soo was annoyed because she thought Young Min was teasing her, so she turned around and walked away. Young Min saw that and said that Eun-soo's mother said that she sang wonderfully on stage at high school. Eun-soo heard that and turned around. Young Min recounted what her mother said. She came to see Eun-soo perform, but hid it from her because she was afraid that her daughter would be embarrassed because she was wearing a work uniform. Then Eun-soo took everyone in her taxi. Young Min recounted what Eun-soo's mother said, saying that her soul now remembered all her memories. She was very happy that Eun-soo took her to work in the taxi. To her, Eun-soo was the most beautiful flower. She thanked her for being her daughter. Eun-soo also burst into tears and thanked her for being her mother. The mother continued to tell Eun-soo to do everything she wanted and that she had to live happily. On this side, Inspector Kang and two policemen came to find Gu Bong, but when they opened the door, they saw Gu Bong lying on the ground and no longer breathing. Chang-suk immediately called his teammates to come here to investigate the scene. At this time, Hee-jeon advised Ju-jin to stop doing wrong things because the police might suspect them, but Ju-jin told Hee-jeon not to worry. As long as they cleaned up the scene, no one would be able to find evidence to accuse them. Ju-jin also said that Hee-jeon was the person he trusted the most. Before, when Ju-jin was in high school, he was constantly scolded and beaten by his father, but Hee-jeon protected him wholeheartedly. That's why she killed Ju-jin's father to free him. And Ju-jin was the one who killed Gu Bong to confiscate his phone. Ju-jin also took a picture, which was what Gu Bong kept to threaten him. When Young Min and Ji-hyun returned home, they saw Ju-jin at home with Young Min's grandmother. He said he came here to bring her blood pressure medicine. Ji-hyun was very suspicious of the appearance of this doctor. Ju-jin asked to borrow the toilet. Then he was curious about the rooms in the house. When he entered Young Min's room, Ji-hyun shouted loudly to call him over. When Young Min arrived, Ju-jin explained that he saw the door to this room open, so he went in to take a look. He also asked Young Min if he had ever intended to become a police officer. Ju-jin was also curious about the old phone charger in the room. Young Min said it was his grandmother's phone charger. Then Young Min asked about Hee-jeon because he thought she could be Jung-soo's accomplice. Ju-jin asked if he had any evidence, but Young Min said no. Ju-jin said that Nurse Hee-jeon was a very gentle and kind person. She would absolutely not support the murderer. Ju-jin thought that Young Min was shocked by his mother's death, so he was just suspicious. After saying that, Ju-jin left. Because Gyu-ji's appearance at Young Min's house was so unusual, Young Min and Ji-hyun decided to go to Jung-soo's house to investigate further. They met Mi-kyung, who was also there. Ji-hyun asked why Jung-soo stole the nerve anesthetic to inject her without taking her to the hospital. hospital for treatment. Mi Kyung said that she was very scared of hospitals. On the last day Young Soo left the house, it seemed like he had just finished reading a note, so he rushed out of the house. Maybe that note was still somewhere in the house. Then the three of them searched for it all over the house. Young Min found a note in a stack of newspapers, on which was written, "Come to me if you need help." On this side, Gyu-jin returned to the hospital and scolded Hee-jeon for her careless actions. He showed a photo of the motorcycle. In the photo appeared a keychain with the Daehoon hospital emblem, and that keychain was in Hee-jeon's bag. Gyu-jin said that this photo was not the original file. Now at the police station, the young police officer informed Chang-soo that he checked the images in Gubong's online storage. He found a photo that the police had never collected. Chang-suk looked at the photo of the motorcycle. He saw a keychain with the Daehoon hospital emblem hanging on it. On this side, when nurse Hee-jeon returned home, she saw Young Min standing in front of Jung Soo's apartment. Young Min said that she wanted to go into his house to investigate, but the door was locked. When Hee-jeon walked away, Young Min asked to go in and talk to her privately. Hee-jeon made a cup of coffee to invite Young Min. He asked what was her relationship with Jung Soo. Was there any special connection between the two? But Hee-jeon refused to answer that question because Young Min was not a police officer. When he picked up the cup of coffee, Ji-hyun remembered that she had fallen here. She told Young Min not to drink that cup of coffee. Young Min put it on the table and said that he could not sleep if he drank coffee at night. Then Young Min left because Hee-jeon refused to provide any information. When they went outside, Ji-hyun said that she would go in there to see what Hee-jeon was doing. Ji-hyun went in and saw her holding a keychain with the Daehoon Hospital logo on it, and there was a picture inside the bag. Ji-hyun went home and told Young Min that she seemed to have seen that keychain somewhere before. At that moment, Inspector Kang called Young Min to inform that Detective Gu Bong had died of drug poisoning. The police discovered a new picture in his online storage. He then sent the picture to Young Min. Young Min looked at the photo of the motorcycle and saw the keychain that Ji-hyun had just mentioned. The next morning, the two went to the hospital to investigate Hee-jeon. Young Min ran to Soji and asked her if she recognized the handwriting on the note. Soji compared the note with the file she was holding and realized that it might be Hee-jeon's handwriting. Young Min immediately took a picture of the file that Soji was holding and told her not to tell anyone about this. At this time, Ju-jin was also standing above observing. Then he asked Soji what Young Min was doing here. Soji lied that Young Min came to borrow money from her. Then she invited Ju-jin to eat spaghetti with her, but he coldly said that he didn't like Western food. Ju-jin informed Hee-jeon that Young Min had just arrived. Hee-jeon also said that yesterday he also went to Jung Soo's house to investigate. Suddenly, the police arrived and announced that they would search the hospital to investigate the serial murder case. Chang-suk showed Hee-jeon the picture and asked if this was the symbol of this hospital. Hee-jeon calmly replied that the keychain was a graduation gift for nursing students at Daehoon University. Chang-soo said that the owner of this keychain was related to this case. However, Jung-soo did not graduate from Daehoon University. Chang-suk remembered that Hee-jeon had graduated from Daehoon University. She said that most people here graduated from that university. Then she asked the police for permission and left. On this side, Gyu-jin went to where Jung-soo was being held. Ju-jin picked up the medicine tube and injected it into his body. Young Min and Ji-hyun compared the handwriting and confirmed that the handwriting on the note was that of Nurse Hee-jeon. Could it be that she was an accomplice of Jung-soo? Ji-hyun said that only when they found Jung-soo would the truth be revealed, but cannot use the note to accuse Hee-jeon. Then Ji-hyun felt her soul as if it was melting. At this time, Ji-hyun's body was also having a seizure. The doctor injected her with a suppressant drug, so Ji-hyun's soul returned to normal. Young Min was worried because she was afraid that she would leave the mortal world, but she said that she had to catch the culprit before disappearing. Young Min said that he would act as a bait to stimulate Hee-jeon. He showed her the note and said that this was the note she gave Jung-soo. Now the police just need to examine the handwriting on it and they will find the person who wrote this note. Hee-jeon explained that Jung-soo was her beloved colleague. He stole the medicine and got into big trouble. That's why she sent the note to help him, but Jung-soo didn't come to find her. Young Min showed the picture with the logo of Daehoon Hospital. Then Hee-jeon argued that any nursing graduate from Daehoon University has this keychain, so it cannot be used as evidence. Young Min said that if Hee-jeon kept quiet, he would consider her an accomplice of Jung-soo. Young Min gave her 2 days to think about it before he handed this paper over to the police. When Young Min left, Hee-jeon felt very worried, so he immediately called Gyu-jin. When Young Min just got out of the car, Hee-ket was knocked down by a mysterious person. Young Min woke up to find himself tied to a chair, and Jung-soo was also lying there unconscious. It seemed like he was no longer breathing. Then Ju-jin came out, sat down and sneered and said that he was the one who killed Young Min's mother. Yet all this time, he had been treating Ju-jin as his benefactor, which made him feel very happy. Ju-jin blamed Young Min for investigating investigating his crimes. So now Ju-jin doesn't want to kill him yet. Young Min asked why he killed people. Ju-jin said it was just because he liked it. Then he showed Young Min videos of the victims' families. They cried and cried in pain when they lost their loved ones. It was Ju-jin who killed So-hee and Eun-su's mother. He had a hobby of recording the victims' images before they died. He saw it as a pastime. Ju-jin told Young Min that after tonight, everyone would think that the serial murders at Daejeon Hospital were caused by Jung-soo and her lover, and the last victim was Young Min. Because of an accident, he and Jung-soo were burned here. Then Ju-jin started pouring gasoline around Young Min, going back in time to when Young Min's mother's accident had not happened. That morning, Young Min was very angry because his mother was sick but still tried to go to work. The mother said she needed to earn money to solve many things. Young Min said that his father died from overworking to pay off debt. Now his mother wants to be like him. Young Min's mother was quite angry when she heard her son say that. Young Min even kicked the taxi before going to school. When Young Min arrived at school, he wrote on a piece of paper that he would apologize to his mother. Right after that, he received a text message from his mother asking him to go eat barbecue. At this time, Young Min's mother was taking Jihyun to a building. When she saw Jihyun looking for a hair tie, Young Min's mother immediately took out her hair tie and lent it to her. Jihyun tied her hair and went inside, but saw that everyone had their hair down, so she went to the bathroom, took off her hair tie, and put it on her hand. Then Jihyun went inside to meet Heejun. She went upstairs to drink with Heejun. When Heejun went to get more wine, Jihyun searched her room for evidence. Suddenly, Jihyun was subdued by Dr. Gyujin. When she knocked the doctor down, she felt the poison seeping into her body. Hyun staggered and knocked over 2 glasses of wine. Gyujin picked up her phone to record her pitiful image because that was the sick doctor's hobby. Jihyun immediately snatched Gyujin's old phone and tried to run away. At this time, Young Min's mother was talking on the phone with her son when she saw Jihyun stagger out and fall. She was about to help her into the taxi. Gyujin stood watching and called Heejun. A moment later, Jihyun also got into the taxi. She accidentally dropped her old phone in the car. The mother called Young Min to inform her that she had to go to the hospital. Immediately after that, she was hit by a motorbike and passed out. Gyujin approached and saw that Young Min's mother was still alive, so he immediately squeezed her waist hard. When the building security guard ran over to check the situation, Gyujin told him to call an ambulance right away. A moment later, Young Min ran over and pushed Gyujin down, but he explained that he was an emergency doctor. He told Young Min that his mother had been hit by someone else's car. The mother tried to tell Young Min everything, but she no longer had the strength. Gyujin pretended to be worried and started performing chest compressions on Young Min's mother. When Young Min's mother was put into the ambulance, Gyujin did not allow Young Min to get in together because there was no space left. Young Min intended to drive his mother's car, but he needed to protect the scene, so he took another taxi instead. When Gyujin and Young Min's mother were in the ambulance, Gyujin secretly injected a vial of medicine into her. At the same time, Heejun, wearing a helmet, came near the taxi. She carried Jihyun, who was unconscious, on the bike and left the scene. Meanwhile, Young Min was sitting in another taxi but got stuck in traffic, so he got out and ran to the hospital. Inspector Kang was on his way home when he saw Jihyun being abandoned on the street, so he called for an ambulance. When Young Min reached the hospital, his mother was no longer alive. Back to the present, Gyujin lit a lighter and set fire to the gasoline on the ground to burn Young Min. Then he walked outside. Jihyun tried to untie Young Min, but she couldn't. She used her spirit to shield him. At this moment, 2 police officers and Inspector Kang also arrived at this place. They saw the fire raging inside, so they used fire extinguishers to put it out. After the fire was extinguished, the rescue team took Jung-soo's body to the car. Young Min was still safe because he was protected by Jihyun's spirit. At this time, Young Min informed the police that Gyujin was the culprit. All the victims at Daejeon Hospital, up to now, were murdered by him. It turned out that Young Min had previously installed a tracking application on Inspector Kang's phone, so both of them knew each other's movements and locations. That's why the police were able to get to this place. Meanwhile, Gyujin was hiding from afar, observing the situation. He called to make an appointment to meet Heejun. Jihyun went home and apologized to Young Min because of her. His mother had just passed away. Then Jihyun went straight to the room. Young Min was about to open the door to go in, but he thought Jihyun needed some space to think, so he decided to leave her alone. Jihyun looked at the picture of Young Min with her mother and burst into tears. Young Min sat outside and said if his mother hadn't met Jihyun, she might still be alive now. But her death wasn't Jihyun's fault because she was also a victim and was pushed into this situation. Moreover, Jihyun had saved Young Min's life earlier, so she didn't need to feel guilty and avoid him anymore. He hoped she wouldn't cry anymore because the 2 of them needed to make Gyujin pay for his crimes. Young Min's words helped Jihyun's mood improve a lot. She stepped out and said that the 2 of them must catch that bastard Gyujin. Dr. Gyujin was also the one who attacked Chung. He gave Chung a bottle of tonic water. Chong trusted him, so he drank the bottle. After that, he felt dizzy, so when Chong climbed the ladder, he fell and died. At this time, Jujin was meeting Heejun. He reported that Young Min was still alive. He clearly saw a big fire, but Young Min wasn't burned to death. The police later came there to investigate. At this time, Jujin felt worried about himself, but Heejun comforted him that he did nothing wrong. She would protect Jujin. Heejun advised him to hide somewhere far away. Jujin was confident that he was very careful, so the police would not find any evidence to convict him. The next day, Jujin went straight to the police station to give a statement. While Heejun sat outside waiting, she remembered that she had promised to help Jung-soo before. When he had just injured Gyujin, Heejun drove Jung-soo to a house to temporarily hide. He asked Heejun to go home to visit Mi-kyung for him, because she was probably very worried. Jujin denied all the accusations of the police, and he said that he did not kill anyone. After that, Young Min went in to confront Jujin. Young Min said that he had kidnapped him and planned to set fire. He intended to put all the blame on Jung-soo. Jujin also showed him videos of the victims, but Jujin asked why Young Min wanted to harm him. This made Young Min extremely angry. He grabbed Jujin's collar in a rage, but then the police announced that Jujin had to be released home because there were no security cameras at the scene of the fire, and Jujin also had an alibi. Young Min was very angry with the police's decision. Jujin walked out of the police station proudly. He got into Heejun's car to leave. Jihyun was very angry at Jujin's arrogant attitude, so she asked Young Min to restore the phone. She remembered that Gyujin had filmed himself with that phone on the day of the accident. She was sure there were many other clips in the phone. Young Min said that restoring the phone's data was not possible because he and Jihyun had gone to the phone repair shop last time. When the phone was about to be restored, Jihyun's soul was about to melt away, so Young Min stopped the repairman from restoring the phone. Then the two of them went to see Wang Sung together. Wang Sung told Young Min not to touch the phone or Jihyun would disappear immediately. It is not natural for humans to carelessly touch objects that have been attached to demons because it will bring a lot of risks. On this side, Jujin returned to the hospital and told Heejun that he intended to install this camera in Young Min's taxi because Jujin felt that he had discovered something. At first, Young Min asked him if he knew Ji-hyun. He also saw Young Min standing and talking to himself. Young Min also wandered around Daehon Hospital all the time. Jujin did not understand how Young Min knew about the villa, and he even escaped the fire. Young Min also investigated many of Heejun's secrets, so Jujin found Young Min very suspicious. That night, after Jihyun returned home, she kept begging Young Min to restore the phone because they could not let Jujin live like that. Young Min said absolutely not. He thought that Jujin would store the original videos in a USB or computer because that was his hobby. He would have to watch the videos regularly. At this time, outside, Jujin was also using software to crack the door of Young Min's taxi. He installed a hidden camera on the roof of the car, so he would be able to see and hear everything in this taxi. The next morning, Jujin checked the camera on the taxi and saw Young Min talking to himself. He saw Young Min running into the house to get the phone charger for Jihyun. Young Min plugged in the phone charger and said, "This is my life, Jihyun." Jujin saw this scene and thought Young Min was crazy. Mi-kyung appeared and told Young Min and Jihyun that she had told the culprit that it was not Jung-soo. She begged the two of them to take her to Jung-soo. When the three of them went to the warehouse that had been burned down before, they saw Jung-soo's spirit sitting there. Mi-kyung happily ran to hug him. Jung-soo also realized that his lover had died. Mi-kyung said that after he left the house, someone entered the house and injected her with medicine. Jung-soo recognized that person as Heejun because before he was brought here, he asked Heejun to visit Mi-kyung for him. Jung-soo gave Heejun the password to his apartment, and it was true that Heejun injected the last dose of medicine into Mi-kyung's body. At this time, Jung-soo was extremely angry and desperate. He felt that Heejun and Jujin were really too cruel. They not only killed Jung-soo and blamed him, but also killed the person Jung-soo loved the most. After that, Jung-soo's spirit began to disappear in black smoke. He swore that he would never forgive those two evil people. Mi-kyung begged Jung-soo not to leave him. Young Min and Jihyun told her to go to heaven with her lover. They promised to find a way to make the two murderers pay for their crimes. Jung-soo said that when Heejun led him into the mansion, he had a headache, so he recorded it. Jung-soo sent the recording to his grandmother's phone in the countryside. That recording might help Young Min. After that, Jung-soo and Mi-kyung went to heaven together. Young Min and Jihyun went to Jung-soo's grandmother's house. Gyujin observed the camera and found out that Young Min had taken the recording that Jung-soo sent to her grandmother. The recording showed that Jujin had come to the mansion to arrest Jung-soo. Young Min immediately sent this recording to Cheongsa police. Young Min comforted Jihyun that although they didn't have the original videos that Jujin recorded, this recording was enough to prove that Jung-soo was harmed by Jujin. Young Min and Jihyun then went to the hospital together. Jihyun went into the office to look for Jujin, but she didn't see him billionaire. The two wondered why Ju Jin disappeared so quickly. While the police were preparing to arrest him, maybe Ju Jin was monitoring Young Min's every move, so he knew about the recording. Young Min then ran to the taxi to search. Ju Jin was also watching him through the camera. Young Min then found a hidden camera in the taxi, so he told Ju Jin that he would definitely catch him. Young Min then stomped on the camera. Young Min and Ji-hyun went to Hee-jeon's house because they were sure she knew where Ju Jin was hiding, but Hee-jeon refused to give any information. Young Min showed his phone and said it fell in his taxi. He thought Ji-hyun had dropped the phone first. Young Min threatened that he would hand it over to the police tomorrow morning. The data in it will help the police find the real culprit and they will arrest Ju Jin. Hearing that, Hee-jeon stood up and declared that she would do everything to protect Ju Jin. Young Min said she was just a puppet that Ju Jin used to carry out his evil intentions, but Hee-jeon laughed loudly. She was proud of what she and Ju Jin had done together. Hee-jeon's attitude made Young Min feel angry, so he and Ji-hyun left. Hee-jeon hurriedly drove to where Ju Jin was hiding. Young Min also drove to follow. Hee-jeon drove to a deserted warehouse and ran inside to meet Ju Jin. Hee-jeon said that Young Min was holding the phone. Young Min intended to hand it over to the police, so Hee-jeon urged Ju Jin to escape quickly. Ju Jin asked her to go get the USB containing the original videos for him. Hee-jeon also drove away. Young Min said he had to go in to buy time before the police arrived. Young Min went in to meet Gu Jin. Young Min said he would hand over Gu Jin's old phone to the police so he wouldn't run away anymore. Gu Jin picked up a hammer and attacked Young Min repeatedly. He knocked Young Min down and snatched back the white phone he used. Young Min stood up and hit him once. The strong impact caused the phone to fall and turn off, so Ji-hyun disappeared. Young Min quickly put the battery back in the phone. He was hit hard by Gu Jin again and fell. He took the phone back and turned it on. An electric current was emitted, allowing him to see Ji-hyun's soul. Ju Jin immediately asked her, "Are you really Inspector Ji-hyun? Are you a ghost?" Only then did he realize that Young Min wasn't crazy, but that the two of them were always together. Yet Ju Jin thought Young Min was crazy and was talking to himself. Young Min is now awake, so Ji-hyun goes to ask about his condition. Ju Jin goes near the fire and asks Young Min if he really loves ghosts. He is about to throw the phone into the fire. Young Min begs Ju Jin not to do that. Young Min kneels down to beg Gu Jin to return the phone to him. Gai Jin says that he killed Young Min's mother. If Young Min loses Ji-hyun now, how much pain will he feel? But Ju Jin likes to see the desperate faces of others when they lose the person they love the most. After saying that, Ju Jin throws the phone into the fire. Young Min puts his hand into the fire to get the phone out, but because it is too hot, he can't do anything. The phone also explodes and Ji-hyun gradually disappears right in front of Young Min. This makes him desperate and can only scream loudly. At this time in the hospital room, Ji-hyun was also showing signs of regaining consciousness. She opened her eyes. Ju Jin was about to pick up a weapon to hit Young Min when the police appeared and took him to the police station. Young Min was taken to the hospital to bandage the burn on his hand. When Inspector Khan came in to ask about his health, Young Min cried and said that he had been with Ji-hyun's soul. Her soul was in the phone that had just burned. Ji-hyun told Young Min not to tell Inspector Kang about this because she was afraid that her father would be heartbroken when he knew his daughter was wandering around. After saying that, Young Min bowed his head and apologized to Inspector Kang because he could not protect his daughter. Inspector Kang listened and immediately led Young Min to another hospital. They went into the room where Ji-hyun was being treated. Young Min touched her face. He could not believe that Ji-hyun was still alive. Inspector Kang said that when Ji-hyun was hospitalized after the accident, someone tried to kill her again. He guessed that person must be Ju Jin, so Inspector Kang transferred Ji-hyun here for further treatment. Young Min burst into tears when he saw that Ji-hyun was still alive. At the police station, Ju Jin denied all the accusations made by the police. He said that he did not assault Young Min and kill Jung-soo. He also said that the voice in the recording was not his. After that, Ju Jin was locked in a cell. On this side, Young Min was holding Ji-hyun's hand. He remembered that the two of them could not hold hands because at that time, Ji-hyun was still a ghost. Then suddenly, Ji-hyun's hand moved again. She opened her eyes and looked at Young Min. Young Min immediately went to call the doctor. At this time, Hee-jeon went to the police station and confessed that she was the culprit who killed a series of patients at Daehan Hospital. Inspector Kang informed Young Min that Ji-hyun's heart rate and health had returned to normal. She also opened her eyes and called her father. Young Min nervously asked her if she recognized him, but it seemed that Ji-hyun no longer remembered him. Hee-jeon showed the phone containing the original videos, the heartbreaking photos of the victims' families, and the black box memory card in Young Min's mother's taxi. Then she confessed to the police that she was the one who caused the deaths of all the victims, and that this had nothing to do with Gu Jin. It was all caused by Hee-jeon and Jung-soo together. Jung-soo changed his mind and threatened to tell everything, so Hee-jeon killed him to silence him. After that, the police had no choice but to release Ju Jin. He walked out and passed by by Hee-John, who was being escorted to prison. Inspector Kang received a phone call informing him that Hee-John had admitted that he was the culprit. That night, Hee-John sat alone thinking. The next morning, the prison guard found her lying on the floor. Next to her was a sharp knife and a letter. Chang Suk heard this news and immediately informed his subordinates to end this case because Hee-John had left this world in the prison cell. The next morning when Ju Jin went to work at the hospital, he received a look of discrimination from his colleagues. So Ji informed him about Hee-John's death. So Ji did not believe that Hee-John was a serial killer. Suddenly, So Ji announced that female inspector Ji-Hun was here. A few days ago, Ji-Hun was transferred here for treatment. She was in a coma, but now she was responding. Gyu Jin was extremely curious why Ji-Hun was still alive. He returned to his office and thought for a long time. Then he took 2 syringes and went straight to Ji-Hun's hospital room. When Ju Jin was about to inject the drug into Ji-Hun, she suddenly opened her eyes. Young Min appeared and knocked Gyu Jin down. When he was about to hit Ji-Hun, Young Min shielded her. Ju Jin ran outside and held Soji hostage. He took her into the elevator with him. The police saw this and hurriedly chased after him. Ju Jin went down to the lobby and stole a car. He drove away and left Soji behind. Young Min got in his taxi to chase after him. Chomsik asked for support to capture Ju Jin. Young Min and 2 policemen fiercely drove after Gyu Jin. When they reached an intersection, the 2 policemen's car got stuck behind. Young Min continued to chase and informed the police of the route. Many police cars also blocked the road. They raised their guns and asked Gyu Jin to stop. Young Min drove the taxi over and then swerved. The unexpected incident caused Ju Jin's car to crash into the roadside barrier. He pushed the policeman away and put a sharp object to his neck. Young Min rushed to control him and said Ju Jin couldn't die so easily. He had to receive the retribution for what he had done. Ju Jin was then arrested by the police. Ji-Hyun then went to see Ju Jin. Gyu Jin said that even if he died, he would come back to kill everyone. Young Min said that he was not sure if he would be released from prison to take revenge. Ji-Hyun worriedly asked about Young Min's burned arm. Before that, Young Min asked Ji-Hyun if she remembered him, but it was okay if she didn't remember because he was happy just to see her alive. Ji-Hyun immediately held Young Min's hand and said that she remembered everything. How could she forget the person she loved? Young Min immediately hugged Ji-Hyun. Ji-Hyun then told the 2 policemen that Hee-John had confessed and left this world. So now it was extremely difficult to convict Ju Jin. The police should use Ji-Hyun as bait for him to act. If Ju Jin saw her alive at Daehan Hospital, he would definitely come and kill her. A few days later, Young Min held Ji-Hyun's hand and walked on a snowy road. Ji-Hyun asked him how much he loved her. Because Young Min was still silent and did not answer, Ji-Hyun kissed him on the lips. Young Min pulled Ji-Hyun's hand and expressed his feelings. After that, the 2 gave each other a sweet kiss and hugged each other tightly. Meanwhile, Ju Jin sat sadly in prison. Now he could see ghosts. Many souls that could not be released continuously appeared. They came to find Ju Jin to release their hatred. Ji-Hyun returned to work. She was transferred to Chang-Su's Serious Crime Unit. The Serious Crime Unit received information about a new case, but Chang-Su told Ji-Hyun to rest and start working again tomorrow. Ji-Hyun refused to eat with her father to go on a date. Young Min took Ji-Hyun bowling with him and his colleagues. Young Min said that he often played bowling with his mother, so he also wanted to play this game with his girlfriend. Everyone was having fun. Jian and Young Min went to see Hwang Sol. The 2 were very happy in love and were both still alive, which surprised Hwang Sol. Ji-Hyun thanked him for helping her regain her memories as a ghost. Young Min wondered where his mother's soul was and why she didn't come to see him. Hwang Sung rang the bell and said that Young Min's mother was still trying to keep her last promise, so she couldn't leave one place. Young Min drove to the barbecue restaurant, which was where his mother promised to take him to eat before she died. Young Min saw his mother's soul here, so he called out his mother's name. Young Min's mother was also very happy that her son could see her. Young Min apologized to his mother for being late, and then both mother and son burst into tears. The mother told her son to live happily. Ji-Hyun, standing next to her, also apologized to Young Min's mother. Because of Ji-Hyun, she had to die. If it weren't for Ji-Hyun, she and Young Min would have lived happily. But Young Min's mother told Ji-Hyun not to blame herself because it wasn't her fault. This sentence made Ji-Hyun sob. After that, the 3 of them sat down to eat grilled meat. Ji-Hyun and Young Min told his mother everything that had happened. The mother told Ji-Hyun to take care of Young Min for her, because thanks to her, she could leave in peace. Young Min's mother asked the 2 of them to eat grilled meat. Young Min immediately put a piece of meat in his mouth to please his mother. His mother remembered that Young Min had said he really wanted to come here, but because the food here was too expensive, she couldn't bring him here to eat. Now Young Min's mother was very happy to see her son eating so well. Only then did Young Min express his love to his mother. If there was a next life, he still wanted to be his mother's son. At that time, he will not make his mother sad and try to be filial to her. Young Min's mother was moved and said that in this life, Young Min was already a perfect son. He was always her motivation and happiness. happiness. When Young Min's mother finished saying these things, her soul was also released. At this time, Young Min's grandmother was dreaming of Jihyun. When she woke up, she was very confused because the dream was so real. Then Young Min took Jihyun home and introduced her to his grandmother. She was very surprised to see that Young Min's girlfriend was the girl who appeared in her dream. The grandmother happily hugged her future granddaughter-in-law. The next day, Young Min waited for Jihyun outside the police station. She said she was investigating the case of a missing woman. Young Min said he would help her solve this case. Then he drove the ghost taxi away. Young Min drove to a bus stop. He stopped the car and asked the woman with glasses, but Jihyun didn't see anyone outside. Then the woman moved into the taxi, so Young Min informed Jihyun. Jihyun asked if she was the woman who had been missing since 1999. The woman confirmed that it was. Jihyun and Young Min proudly introduced themselves as the ones who cleared up injustice and fulfilled the wishes of ghosts. And this car was called the Ghost Taxi. Jihyun signaled Young Min to ask a question. Young Min then asked the woman if she had money to pay for the taxi. She said they still wanted to take the ghost's money. The woman had been here for 20 years. She knew a place where gangsters hid money nearby. Jihyun then signaled Young Min to take this customer. Young Min also agreed and started driving. Then the two of them began to fulfill the ghost's wish. Today's drama ended here. See you in the next videos.